If you were around during the early 2000s, you're probably familiar with the Final Destination movies. It's safe to say that this series has traumatized an entire generation of people, especially that one scene from the second movie. Most of you know exactly the one I'm talking about. And for those who somehow don't worry, we'll definitely get into it later in the video. The premise of all these movies is pretty simple. Something horrific where a bunch of people die is about to happen, but just before it actually happens, one of the people involved sees the events that are about to unfold in a vision, which causes them to unknowingly interfere with death's design, as it's referred to, by saving themselves and a few people who would have otherwise died, and that upsets Death. So it goes like, alright, new plan, and one by one starts picking off the survivors in increasingly ridiculous, elaborate, and gruesome ways. You could say that for these characters, death is their final destination. I've seen someone describe it as death doing trick shots, and honestly, I cannot think of a better way to put it. I've watched the first two movies when I was young, after which I wasn't exactly thirsting for more, as the premise is pretty simple. Like, you can't redo it that many times before it becomes repetitive. So you can imagine my surprise when almost 2 decades later, I see a trailer for the Final Destination Bloodlines. So not only are they making a new one, apparently there's 5 already of these. Seems they decided enough time had passed and now it was time to traumatize the next generation like they did with us with this new sequel. The kills in these movies generally get more ridiculous as we go, but that's not a bad thing necessarily. Like, at the end of the day, over the top, violent, and just batshit insane death scenes are what these movies are all about. And judging from the new trailer, that has not changed. So while we wait for the big drop, how about we take a journey together through the 5 that we have currently? Let's start at the beginning, but I will say, right off the gate, viewer discretion is advised because these movies are graphic as hell. Expect lots of violence, nudity, some sex, a lot of which I can't show on YouTube, but we'll figure it out. We're introduced to a 17-year-old boy called Alex as his parents help him pack up for a senior trip he'll be taking to Paris with his high school class. The kids are accompanied by Baldy here, who keeps talking to them in French, mostly to flex, as I'm sure he knows damn well that none of them speaks a word of it, and Miss Valerie Luton. They do the thing where the name of the movie shows up in the movie. I want to point out that this movie is set just before a certain event that would have made this entire airport sequence look very different. Alex's bestie, Todd, tells him they should take a shit before takeoff. Let's go take a shit. Which is incredibly wise for a teenager their age. And fortunately for us, we get to see this amazing bathroom scene during which a song by John Denver, who died in a plane crash, plays. The foreshadowing isn't exactly subtle in these movies. Then, the single most horrifying thing in the whole series happens. There's a baby on board with them. Then, as they are boarding, Todd quotes Jeffrey Epstein, "Younger the better," and everyone gets seated. But Alex is getting bad vibes all around, like just trash vibes. And then the plane takes off and psych! It was all in Alex's head, idiot. Bro freaks the fuck out and goes on about the plane crashing. So Carter, the dickhead jock, starts fighting him, and they both get thrown off the plane. Followed by the 2 teachers, Carter's girlfriend Terry, and Todd, who followed to check on Alex. There's also Claire, who quietly gets off the plane when Alex started screaming. Very demure of her. Miss Luton tells Baldy to get back on the plane while she stays with these morons for the next flight, since he speaks French, which will be useful given that Paris is their destination. Their final destination, that is. Or is it? The few people who got off are now the only survivors, and they are taken for questioning. And the 2 feds assigned to them are called...
I'm Agent Ween, this is Agent Shrek.
Ween and Shrek? They suspect Alex had something to do with it since he predicted the whole thing, but he says he just knew it because somebody once told him the world was gonna roll him. Todd tells them about his brother George, who died on the plane. Miss Luton feels guilty about Baldy, and Claire says she just got up because she believes Alex. The kids' families show up to pick them up, except for Claire, who just stands there like that one meme in the corner. They don't know I have no parents, which Alex notices, so his parents drive her home with them. Later, Alex is all depresso espresso watching the news about the crash and seems surprised when it says there are no survivors, which... I don't know, dog. Oh shit! Seems kinda obvious to me. Skip to the memorial. Alex is treated like a freak by everyone, even by the teacher.
Don't talk to me, you scared the hell out of me.
The only ones being decent to him are Todd and Claire. She even gives him a flower. And you can tell he's already imagining his entire future with her. Take note, ladies, if you want a man, just show him a little bit of affection when he's at his lowest, and he'll be all over you. Wait, no. Later, Todd is at his place taking a shit. My favorite thing to see. Thanks, movie, for showing us that a second time. Water starts leaking out of the toilet, which is bad, but it pales in comparison to Bro's shaving skills, or more like lack thereof. He literally cuts himself on the first stroke and gives up. Not to mention, Bro's cheeks are the smoothest thing about him, second only to his brain. He had no reason to be shaving. Unless it's his comfort pick like the black guy from Predator. He turns on the radio, but it's John Denver again, so he turns it off. Yeah, you're gonna be hearing this song a lot, as it is one of the signs that happen before a character is about to arrive. Arrive where? To their final destination. Meanwhile, Alex just finished joking it to a Playboy magazine while finding about Claire, his future wife, or so he hopes anyway. But post-nut clarity hates, and he throws the magazine away, which gets caught in the fan and shredded to pieces, like it's made of paper. Which it is, but like really shitty paper, apparently. A shred that says Todd lands on his knee. I wonder what could that possibly mean. Having put 2 and 2 together, Alex runs to Todd's place, only to find police, medics, Wiener, and Shrek have beat him there. And Claire is also there, hiding behind a tree, as one does. The next day, Alex visits Claire to see what she was doing at Todd's. She tells him she also felt the trash vibes on the plane, which is why she didn't hesitate when he started freaking out. She thinks something is still with him from that day, because she can still feel him, and that is why she was at Todd's place. Confused, Alex hypothesizes that Todd might be only the beginning.
In the business, we call this foreshadowing.
Claire is generally weird as hell. I mean, look at this sculpture she made. Kinda looks like a coil head from Lethal Company.
It's you.
Alex is absolutely into it. So, they decide to hang with Todd for their first date. They break into the morgue and Claire lets her freak show.
Gives me a rush. This place. Doing something I'm not supposed to.
Todd is very excited to see them. Then the most metal character of this whole series shows up. The Mortician. He starts yapping about how our actions are all futile because no matter what we do, death is our final destination. This bit gets funnier the more I do it. Bro says Alex and the others have cheated Death's design by getting off the plane, but it has a new one for all of them. He wishes them good luck and tells them to fuck off.
I'll see you soon.
This guy is the best. I love him. Alex starts geeking about the shred of paper that said Todd, saying whatever is haunting them is leaving them hints that they can pick up if they pay attention. But Claire says they might as well just take a toaster bath because there is a pattern to be found in literally everything if they're looking for one. You know, Homegirl was cooking, actually. This is a real psychological phenomenon called pareidolia, which is our human tendency to recognize patterns where there are actually none. They conclude that they have to cheat death again. Me personally, I'll just pass away, bruh. Living in paranoia like that sounds terrible. And let us assume they managed to cheat this design too. Who's to say it won't just make up a third one, and a fourth one, and a fifth one? That sounds worse than death. Like, just fucking kill me, bro. Anyway, Carter the dickhead and his bitch pull up in a muscle car, of course. That's American Bully 101. Billy and Miss Luton are also there randomly. How convenient that all 6 survivors just so happen to gather in one spot. Carter and Alex get into a rematch, but Terry has had enough of their bullshit.
If you want to waste your life beating the shit out of Alex, then you can just drop fucking dead.
Traumatized yet again, Alex goes and Rotmaxes at home, but he then sees a theory about the cause of the explosion on the news, which he uses to figure out that they are dying in the same order they would have died in the accident, which means
Miss Luton's next.
Miss Luton has already packed her shit to move out of town to escape all the trauma. She sees Alex lurking outside her window, so she calls Agent Shrek. She calls Agent Shrek. I can't say it with a straight face, man.
This is Valerie Luton. I need Agent Shrek.
Like that's ever gonna happen.
Shrek and Wiener arrive to find Alex fucking with Miss Luton's car, so they take him while she watches from her window like a witch. Look, I guess she's traumatized and all, but she's his teacher. She's supposed to be the adult here. These little shits have already moved on and are even investigating the whole thing on their own, while she, a grown-ass woman, is hiding in her home, pissing and shitting her pants. I get that everyone responds to trauma differently and that kids are more flexible, but she just called the feds on her student who just lost all of his friends. Like, what if he was suicidal and was seeking her for help? Deserves her license revoked for this. But that won't be necessary anyway. She plays her mom's favorite vinyl to help her cool off, and you're never gonna guess what song that is. You know what that means? You're probably wondering how I got here. Hi, Agent Mike Cox here from Death Inc., which is a legitimate and licensed company. Today, I would like to share with you an inspiring story from one of our clients, Miss Valerie Luton, about how she went from this to this with our 10-step program. Put a towel on the knife rack. I know that might seem strange to some, but it's very important. As you can see here, Miss Val pours some boiling water in the mug, but then she changes her mind. If you're following along at home, you can just pour the water in the sink. So long as the mug is properly heated, you're good to go. But don't drink it. You don't want to burn your tongue. She decides to fix herself some ice-cold vodka instead, as it's late at night and tea would be keeping her up. Such a responsible adult she is. Remember to use the same mug before it cools off, as the switch from hot to cold is crucial for the next step. If you've done the previous step correctly, the mug should crack and start leaking profusely. Don't worry about the mess, it's all part of the program. Make your way to the nearest computer, but don't dawdle, or the vodka might run out. As you see here, Miss Val reaches behind the computer and gets some of the vodka on the monitor in the process. Make sure you really get it in there so the monitor can do its part. And don't worry about the device. Our insurance company covers everything used in the program. Now, 70% of our clients fail at step 6 due to the intense urge to quickly unplug the computer when it starts sparking. You are supposed to resist and just wait until it blows up in your face. Another contributing factor to the high failure rate of this step is the glass trajectory, which cannot be predicted or controlled, unfortunately. But with a bit of luck, a shard will hit something important, like in Miss Val's case. Now, step 7 is really simple. You just need to pull out whatever object has been lodged into you so that the wound can start squirting blood everywhere. Are you still following? Excellent job! Make your way to the kitchen, but be careful not to slip on your own life juice. The malfunctioning monitor shows a nice vodka trail you made earlier. By now, you just need to stand and calmly watch the burning trail approach you and brace for the explosion. Ideally, the explosion has knocked you to the ground like Miss Val, but if not, just lay down and catch your breath. Now would be a good time to tend to the gushing hole in your neck. You're gonna need the towel you put on the knife rack all the way back in step 1 to apply pressure on your neck. Maintain a lying position and calmly reach for the towel. Oh dear, you tipped the knives over and one stabbed you? No worries. Oh, wait. They missed? No, they didn't. I don't know what you're talking about. Some clients get confused and pull it out like the glass shard in step 7, but you need to live this one in. Once sufficiently stabbed, step 10 is the easiest part. You just sit tight and wait, as one of our associates will be there to assist you shortly. In Miss Val's case, there was a minor setback as our associate was taken in by the feds, but he still manages to reach her within an acceptable time frame. I assure you, our response times are normally second to none, but the FBI thing was just a misunderstanding. Our company operates well within the law, which is a guarantee by the head of our legal division himself, Mr. Goodman. Our associate gets in through Miss Val's front door that she didn't lock. It is advised to leave an easy way of access for our associate, but it's okay if you forgot. We always find a way. Normally, our associate has to finish the job in a way that looks like an accident, but in Miss Val's case, it was actually an accident. No need to worry. Such contingencies happen all the time, and our operatives are trained to adjust accordingly. With the job well done, our associate calmly exits the house. And another blazing success for our 10-step program. And another satisfied customer. Those following along at home, it might take a few tries to get it right all the way, but don't let that bring you down. Failure is the great teacher, as they say. I am Mr. Cox from the legitimate company Death Inc. Thank you for tuning in. Anyway, Claire goes to meet with Billy and Carter, the remaining 2 other than herself and Alex. She asks Carter to take them to see Alex because she thinks he knows who's next. She eventually finds him moping on the beach like a little bitch where the plane debris washed up. So she trauma dumps on him about her dad's death and how her mom subsequently abandoned her, all to say,
Then fuck death.
and to man the fuck up. So Alex,
I'm thinking I'm back.
the 4 hooligans drive back and Carter finally believes Alex's death theory, but he doesn't exactly like it and drives like an asshole to go out on his own terms.
I control my life, I control my death.
But they don't crash because Death refuses to take him without playing with him a little bit. I'm starting to think Death is just a cat with godlike powers. God, that would be terrifying.
What you have to realize is that we're all just a mouse that a cat has by the tail.
Alex sees a reflection that looks like a train just before Carter finally stops the car. on the train tracks. And conveniently, a train is coming. Isn't it kind of unfair that the signs show to the person who gets the visions, not the person they're about? Like, what if the vision haver is too far to warn them? Or just really stupid and misses them all? They all get out, but Carter stays a little longer to edge death. But when he tries to drive off, the car doesn't start. Because of course it fucking doesn't, this is a horror movie. The doors also get locked on their own and the seatbelt jammed, but Alex steps in and manages to yank Carter out the window a literal millisecond before the train tears its smithereens. The crazy son of a bitch done did it. He managed to shoot them. Or did he? They assume that blowing Death's attempt on Carter stops the whole design, but as they're about to find out, Death is still going. It just skipped Carter for now. Carter is directly responsible for this one, seeing how he brought them there in the first place, and a piece of his car is literally what killed Billy. That being said, Billy wasn't doing himself any favors either by standing this close to a speeding train that just obliterated the car while being chased by Death itself. Not to victim blame or anything, I'm just saying he wasn't being exactly safe about it. Alex doesn't give a fuck that Billy just got obliterated, I guess he's used to it by this point. Instead, he starts geeking out about how his visions give him the power to intervene and cheat the design like he just did. Claire, being the voice of reason, like always, tells Alex they need to get him to her dad's remote cabin before the cops arrive.
You can hide out there and get your head together.
That's not very considerate to say in front of Billy, Claire. At the cabin, Alex makes the place as safe as humanly possible because he's next. The idea being that Death won't move on to her until it gets him, so by protecting himself, he's also protecting her. At Claire's house, the feds are still camping outside looking in with binoculars. Oh, so when I do it, I get arrested for stalking. But when the government does it, it's a matter of security? How is that fair? She caves in and gives them Alex's location so they can protect him. Which is dumb, but honestly that one's on Alex for betting his life on a woman keeping quiet. Alex realizes he actually fucked up and his boo is next, not him. So he throws caution to the wind and rushes out, narrowly dodging the cops, and he kayaks over to her place. Back at Claire's, lightning strikes a power cable and the wire gets snatched on the spinny laundry thing. Seeing all this tomfoolery unfold, Claire makes her way out and almost dies a bunch of times, but I guess Death will only take her if she knows it's her turn. Kinda like how gravity only works in cartoons after you look down. The laundry thingy breaks up the pool, causing a flash flood, which is bad news given there is a possessed live wire flailing around. This is bullshit, by the way. Power lines don't thrash around like that for that long after they get snapped. This entire sequence is honestly bullshit and I fucking hate it, so just bear with me. Claire decides she no longer wants to be part of this tomfoolery and climbs up the wall back to her room. Meanwhile, Alex is having a bunch of close calls himself. The dumbest of which is when a lightning strikes a tree and it falls his way, so he runs away from it instead of just scooting to the side. Poor old Groot here pins him face down in a puddle and he almost drowns. At this point, Death is not hunting them, it's racing against their own stupidity. He finally reaches Claire, who just went through a bunch of bullshit herself that I cannot be bothered to explain. All that you need to know is that she's now stuck in a car in front of the garage with a fire under it, and the possessed wire is stuck on the hood, still thrashing. Alex decides to sacrifice himself, so Death skips her and takes him instead. Not sure how that will work, but I don't care at this point. Claire gets out of the car, and just as he grabs the wire, the car explodes, throwing Alex away from the wire that suddenly remembers how physics works and stops role-playing a fireman hose. Alex survived all this somehow. The explosion alone would have liquefied all of his organs. Not to mention that Death is supposedly after them and wouldn't let this fly. Like, you're telling me this happens to you with Death on your tail and you don't die? But even worse yet, the curse still gets broken despite no one dying. Seems even Death was sick of this shit at this point and just left. 6 months later, Carter, Alex, and Claire finally make it to Paris. Wait, hold the fuck up. Why is he not in jail? The cops had evidence that he murdered Valerie, you know, the teacher. That's the main reason he was avoiding them in the first place.
Look, I can't go home because after Mrs. Luton are gonna be looking for me.
Did they just forgive him for saving Claire? That's not how that works. At any rate, Alex himself is confused why he survived.
But in my case, no one intervened. I was thrown from that power line by the explosion.
And proposes that maybe they ain't out of the woods yet. As if on cue, some fucker starts singing in the background, and of course it's John fucking Denver, but in French, so I guess Jean Denver. Alex recognizes it and freaks out, setting in motion a bunch of bullshit that culminates as a billboard almost crushes him. It's not for Carter pushing him out of the way, which means Alex got skipped and the playlist starts over.
So who's next?
This is also bullshit because Claire actually saved Alex seconds before Carter did by calling out to him, which made him dodge this bus that was gonna turn him to spare organs. Whatever, let's just move on. We've got 4 more to go. Overall, oh, it's not a bad movie. I would give it a 7 out of 10. But they did have a character called Shrek, so 8 out of 10. Also, they do this
Oh shit. Here we go again.
type ending in all the movies, so that's something to look forward to. Final Destination 2. The most iconic of the series, it takes place 1 year after the first. We're introduced to the main character, Kimberly, who's preparing for a road trip with her friends, Shayna, Dano, and Frankie, all of which are completely irrelevant. The characters are adults this time though, which means I can finally make immature jokes without being put on a list, and I'm gonna abuse this power while I still have it. Kim gets off to a rough start as her car is leaking transmission fluid, she's driving like shit, and puts on her seatbelt pretty far into the drive. Kim, lock in. At this rate, you won't even make it to your final destination. Along the way, a bunch of stuff happens, foreshadowing a... And my favorite sign has to be... This movie is really up in your face compared to the first one, which I like because if you've seen the previous movie like you're supposed to, the cat's already out of the bag, so instead of pointlessly trying to catch us off guard with the horrific event, it revels in edging us, like, uh-oh, seems they're gonna crash. I hope they don't crash. Maybe not. Also, hello again. Something really important happens that I can't show on YouTube, but if you pay close attention, you might just see it. Did you catch that? Go back 10 seconds and look closer. We finally get the we came for, as the logs on this ominous looking truck come loose and wreak absolute fucking havoc on the highway. Everyone crashes and dies horrible burning, screaming deaths. Psych was all in Kim's head. I can't believe you fell for that a second time. Kim is our seer this time around. Seers is what the fandom calls the people who have visions. During the pileup, there are some shots where you can see the cars are empty, and in others, they have dummies in them. But like, it's very obvious that they're dummies. Some of the cars are also way too eager to explode, which I can't help but roll my eyes when movies do that. But these are all nitpicks. The sequence is sick as hell overall, especially considering that it was all done with practical effects. Now, CGI was used, but only to touch up and put shots together. The only exception is the logs, funnily enough, which they had to do with CGI because real logs barely bounced at all, which I think is hilarious. I love practical effects. I don't care if it looks better with CGI, it will never have the soul that the practical effects provide, but that's just my opinion. What is not an opinion, however, is the cultural impact of this scene. A piece of media having real-life influence on people's behaviors is every creator's wet dream, one I will probably never achieve. Anyway, back to the movie. Kim freaks out and puts her car sideways to block the road in an attempt to save herself and everyone else, among which is Officer Burke. He goes up to her like,
Oi, you wanker, what's all this then?
So she tells him, and he thinks she's crazy. But then the log truck pulls up and demonstrates that Kim was in fact not crazy. Oh, and the number 180 shows up on a road sign in the midst of it all. Same number as the flight from the previous movie. Yeah, this is gonna keep happening. I'm just glad they didn't go with 666 as their curse number. That would have been really cheesy. Ooh, flight 666 crashed. Ah, the devil's number. Another semi comes and sweeps up Kim's car with everyone in it and almost gets Kim herself, if not for Officer Burke. Kim and everyone she saved are taken for questioning. She tells Burke about her vision and draws a parallel to Flight 180. She says she had a vision before the pileup happened, like Alex did before the plane exploded. Eugene sarcastically remarks that everyone from that flight ended up dying anyway. But Burke points out that Claire is actually still alive, locked up in a padded room. Everyone calls bullshit and leaves, much to Kim's dismay. Her dad takes her home, where she tells him about the vision and shares her concern for the others, worrying they'll soon arrive. Arrive where? To their final destination. First up is Evan, who I don't feel sorry for at all, and neither should you. I mean, he literally tosses old pasta out the window. I should also point out that he won the lottery the day before and, like most lottery winners, went and bought a bunch of expensive garbage that he doesn't need. Bro microwaves noodles without even glancing at it like a complete fucking psychopath. You should always check your food before putting it in the microwave to make sure nothing dangerous has gotten in it. Something like, I don't know, a fridge magnet perhaps? He puts on his new drip while his dinner cooks, but the microwave doesn't exactly like how the magnet tastes and starts gagging, which startles Evan, causing him to drop a piece of the drip in the garbage disposal. And being the fucking idiot that he is, he immediately reaches in after it, forgetting that his microwave is turning to an IAD. And the clusterfuck continues as his new big-ass gold watch gets stuck in the drain, and no, the garbage disposal doesn't turn on its own. I know you thought it would, I did too, but he just stays stuck like that, while the food he was cooking catches fire. He tries to put it out from where he is with a towel, which doesn't go very well.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Lucky for him, his hand comes loose, and he makes it to the fire escape just before the whole apartment blows up. He makes his way down, but then slips on the pasta that he threw out earlier, directly beneath the sliding fire escape ladder. And Death, once again, plays with his food.
Jesus Christ!
Bro's not beating the cat allegations, while Death is responsible for Evan's, well, death. I think Bro's smooth brain played an equal part in it. Burke gets busy researching Flight 180, and we learn that Alex, despite all his efforts and knowledge, still ended up dying. And a lame-ass death at that. A brick fell on his head. Like, you have people dying at the end of an insane, elaborate 20-step domino, and then there's Alex. So freaking anticlimactic. But hey, at least it was quick. Also, his girlfriend apparently is called Clear, not Claire, like I've been saying this whole time. Look, I'm using subtitles that have a bunch of typos in them, so I just assumed that was one, because who the fuck is called Clear? Does she have a younger brother called Opaque too? Or a creepy uncle called Murky? If her dad was transgender, would that make him transparent? The news about Evan's DIY lobotomy freaks the other survivors out, so they all head up Burke and arrange a meeting at his place. Kim does some research on Clear and decides to visit, and together they conclude that the order is reversed this time and that Kim already got skipped when Burke pushed her out of the semi's way, so Death will get back to her when it's done with the others. Clear tells her to look for signs and offers no further help.
You gotta help me.
I don't have to do anything.
But you beat it.
Take a look around. What did I beat, Kimberly? If you were smart, you'd save yourself and just forget about the others.
Which pisses Kim off.
You're too damn bitter and selfish to help any other person. In my opinion, you're already dead.
Clearly, Clear isn't staying alive because she wants to, but rather out of pure spite. And I mean, can you really blame her after all she's been through and everyone she's lost? Especially considering that her life was ass even before the whole plane thing. Faced with that much trauma, there are only two possible responses. One either goes into a deep depression and gives up, or one stands burned by the embers of Armageddon, his soul
blistered by the fires of hell and tainted beyond dissension. He chose the path of perpetual torment. In his ravenous hatred, he found no peace, and with boiling blood, he scoured the unknown plains, seeking vengeance against the Dark Lords who had wronged him. He wore the crown of the Night Sentinels.
Anyway, Kim finds Officer Burke at her doorstep, who says he believes the death stuff and invites her to the meeting. Then, out of nowhere, a bunch of pigeons fly at Kim, causing her pants to turn brown, which she interprets as a sign. The pigeons, not her shitting herself. Next on the list are Tim and Nora, who are at the dentist, which goes to show Death really got no chill. Like, come on, man, the dentist is already scary enough as it is. But nope, no mercy. Death wastes no time and gets cooking. Okay, why do all dentists have a fish tank in their clinic anyway? Is it because of Finding Nemo? Is Disney really behind all this? Speaking of Finding Nemo, birds keep flying into the window here too, except it's normal-sized birds. This isn't Australia.
This is America.
Worried about using a needle with the constant avian jump scares, the doctor switches tactics. A pigeon breaks through the lobby window, which draws the doctor away from Tim. It also provides a distraction so that no one notices the leaking filter as it fucks with the clinic's power, shutting off the oxygen pump hooked to Tim's nose. But no worry, he can still breathe through his mouth. His wide, open, unobstructed mouth. And just like that, Tim choked to death. is what I would say if the secretary didn't randomly walk in and pull the thing out of his mouth. Death has been cheated once again. On their way out, they see Burke and Kim running at them, yelling about pigeons! So Tim, this big baby, runs at the pigeons to scare them off, who fly at a construction worker, causing him to accidentally hit a lever and turn Tim into baby oil.
It's all fun and games till some kid dies. Then it's hilarious.
A self-fulfilling prophecy if I've ever seen one. This dumbass got himself killed because these two drew his attention to the pigeons! Although he might have still done it anyway, since he has had the mind of a child. I mean, he is a child, but he had the mind of an even smaller child. You get the point, shut the fuck up. But hold on a second. Why did Tim die? The design was all set in the clinic when he was choking, but then the secretary saves him. Shouldn't that skip him? Maybe even drag the secretary into the design? Or was all of that part of the design which hinged on these two's warning? But if so, then what was the point of everything that happened in the clinic if all it needed was just Kim and Burke? Was Death just playing with his food again? Death really is just a cat, isn't it? Clea shows up, interrupting Kim and Burke's sob party, and offers to help. Not sure how she found them, but it's clear that she had a change of heart. The three of them drive to the morgue where she introduces them to the man, the myth, the legend!
Hello, Claire.
He does what he does best and fucks with them while casually processing Evan's corpse. But then Kim asks nicely, so he gives her a hint.
Only new life can defeat death.
What the hell does that mean?
Somebody once told me.
Apparently there's a balance between life and death that can be reset by introducing a new life that wasn't meant to be.
You have to follow the signs, Kimberly.
How do you know my name?
I fucking love this guy. He is the best part of this whole series. Later, Kim gets a vision of driving a white van into a lake and drowning, which reminds Burke there was a
pregnant
chick in a white van who's called Isabella on the day of the pileup. Clea puts two and two together and theorizes that if that woman survives until her baby, who's supposed to die along with her, is born, that could be the new life they need. So Burke uses his police magic to get Isabella's license plate and reports it stolen so they can find her. Kind of strange how Kim saw everyone's death in her vision, except Isabella was just shown this little thing and left to assume that she died since everyone else did. After all, we're dealing with death itself. A
pregante
woman is no match for it, especially when the stakes are this high. You see, the child she's carrying has the capacity to out Pizza the Hut. So Death will do whatever it takes to prevent that, as the fast food industry is one of Death's biggest allies. At the survivor meeting, Clea explains the plot, while Kim hands out burner phones to use if someone sees a sign. Eugene still ain't sold. Kat is on the fence. Rory is on more drugs than Courier 6, about to head through the quarry junction, but he seems on board. And Nora's just too depressed to even care about any of this. Clea almost gets a facelift, so they get working, making the place safe. When Nora decides she's got nothing left to live for anyway, and she leaves. She's having the opposite response of Clea that I mentioned.
She has crippling depression.
And then Eugene follows her, doing the whole I control my life bit that Carter did.
I'll be sure to carve that into your tombstone.
Low-key, Vicious Clear is hot.
Such fire in you now.
I would let her spin in my mouth. Anyway, Rory gets literal foreshadowing in the form of this shadow man with hooks, which is referring to this creepy dude. Clea rushes out to get Nora while Burke calls her on the burner. The phone startles her catatonic ass, so she drops it. While leaning down to grab it, her hair gets caught on the hooks. Burke tells her to look out for a man with hooks.
He's right behind me, isn't he?
She rushes out of the elevator when it opens, but her hair pulls her back in, and crazy how any elevator is one fuck up away from becoming a guillotine, isn't it? Also, this is the second time their attempts to save someone ended up causing them to die, so it's safe to say that Death has upgraded its designs to anticipate for the seer's interventions. Eugene bursts in, having a meltdown, which culminates as he snatches the officer's revolver and tries to blow his own brains out, but he fails. Bro is the final boss of Russian roulette.
They're all duds. 6 in a row? That's impossible.
Truth is, the game was rigged from the start.
The remaining 5, along with Clear, head out to get Isabella, who's been located and is currently chilling in custody. Her water breaks, however, and the only patrol car the precinct has is not available because the police got defunded, so she and the only cop there with her take her van to the hospital. It's Kim's vision, isn't it? Along the way, the survivors exchange stories about other times that they dodged death, all of which turn out to be somehow related to the survivors of Flight 180. Eugene was transferred from the school he worked at to replace Miss Luton. Then 2 days later, a kid stabbed the teacher who would have been him at the first school. Kat would have died at an Airbnb where a gas leak killed everyone overnight, but she never made it there because the bus she was in liquefied Terry. Bork dodged the shooting that killed his partner because he got a last-minute call to go mop up Billy from the train tracks. Rory had tickets to the theater that collapsed in Paris and killed everyone inside, but he was late because he was tripping balls. He only managed to get there in time to see Carter getting whacked. And finally, Kim was at a mall with her mom, where a bunch of dickheads tried to carjack them and shot her mom. Kim only survived because she fell behind to watch a report about Todd purportedly hanging himself, while her mom went outside. Recognizing that everyone made it this far only because the first bunch on the plane dodged death, Clear hypothesizes that the plane survivors didn't just screw up their design, but they caused a rift in all the designs, which Death was trying to round up, but Kim ended up fucking that up as well. On a side note, in all these stories, the kill count comes out 1 short, as someone dodges death, except Eugene's. Someone still got stabbed, just not the original target. Apparently that doesn't matter though. Fuck that one teacher, I guess. And Clear's theory would make sense if not for the fact that she's still here even to conclude it. Shouldn't she be the first on Death's list since she eluded it the longest and the last piece of the rift that spawned this new one in the first place? It's not like Death hasn't had a chance at her yet. There were a bunch of opportunities to take her since she left the sanctuary.
Such fire, you know.
Death, follow the signs.
What the fuck are you thinking?
I'm thinking.
Carve that into your tombstone.
So why is she still breathing? Is Death just styling on her? In perfect irony, the gang's tire bursts, and they almost crash head-on into Isabella's van, but Kat manages to avoid it. Whoever said women can't drive was tripping absolute balls. Although it seems she used all of her mana on that swerve and can't use the brakes anymore. So they go off-road, hit a bunch of stuff, and eventually stop on someone's property. And by stop, I mean crash trunk first into a bunch of construction materials that impale Eugene's chest and almost get Kat's head. She's also now trapped by a thick-ass log stuck through her door. Okay, maybe the women can't drive thing isn't entirely false.
Watch out for power lines!
The property owners come out to help and their son almost gets hit by a news van, but Rory yanks him away. Are people really this oblivious in real life? The news van's gas tank pops on a rock and it starts leaking.
That's a surprise tool that can help us later.
Forget about it for now. Rory and Kim watch the firefighters as they work to get Kat out. Then he gives Kim his keys so she can delete his browser history. The firefighters seem to have forgotten to remove the PVC spike of doom that is inches from Kat's head. Minor oversight. Having overdosed on microplastics, Kat drops her cigarette, which the wind blows towards the gas from the news van that has pulled nearby. Meanwhile, Rory's over here sniffing glue away from the crowd, so Bork gets ready to commit police brutality when all of a sudden a tree branch snaps and falls towards him, forcing him to duck just in time to... Yo Rory, what do you think of all this death design stuff? I don't know, man. Kinda on the fence about it. With only Kim, Bork, Clear, and like 60% of Eugene left, the merry trio take the owner's truck to go get Isabella. On their way, Kim gets another vision where she's at a hospital and someone called Kalarjian is trying to choke her. They assume it's Isabella, and a nurse with that name will try to kill her. Not sure why a nurse would want to do that, but she must be stopped at all costs. Isabella's baby is too important. Eugene hears the news about Kat, but he's immediately given other stuff to be sad about. At the hospital, Claire looks for Eugene while the other two try to stop Kalargia, who's actually on her way to Isabella's delivery room to help with some complications. And these two idiots stop her, putting the baby and Isabella in danger. The baby still comes out fine though, and Pizza Hut's days are numbered. Eugene's respirator switches to emergency battery as death is officially defeated. Or is it? Kim gets a sequel to her very first vision that shows Isabella was in fact never gonna die on the highway in the first place. I was cooking when I pointed that out. So she and her baby never mattered. I mean, they do, of course, like that. But not like in a defeating death kind of way. Death may be evil, but even it refuses to spawn kill. Claire finally finds Eugene, unaware that his room has been filling up with oxygen this whole time, which can only mean... double kill. Kim's hands are now bloodied like in her vision, so she realizes it was her this whole time, and she has to die and be brought back to end this. She hops into an ambulance parked out front and drives into the nearby lake. Bork dives after her, and then we cut to the other vision playing out for real, but Kalarjian is actually zapping her back to life, not choking her. And since she flatlined for a bit before she was brought back, it counts as a new life that wasn't supposed to be, and they beat death on a technicality. Turns out the key to beating death is just modern healthcare. No wonder it took them so long to figure that out. I too would rather take my chances with death itself over the American healthcare and insurance system. And with that, death is defeated. For real this time. Or is it? Remember what Claire said? How every disturbance causes further disturbance? Remember that dumb kid that Rory saved? Meet Brian Gibbons. Brian was the son of Mr. and Mrs. Gibbons, the owners of the property that Kat's SUV crashed at. They're really nice people, and they invited Kim and Burke, who are now dating, over for lunch after all the shenanigans were finished. But what the Gibbons didn't know is that they had some unfinished shenanigans of their own that are now finished. Barring that unfortunate accident, Kim and Burke did what Claire and Alex tried and failed at, and they lived happily ever after. Rumor has it they are still paying the hospital bill to this very day. This movie honestly deserves to be the most iconic of the series. The main event is sick, tiebacks to the previous movie were consistent, the kills, while still very elaborate, made more sense than last time. I also like that they didn't do that thing where a song plays every time before someone dies. It was a cute little quirk in the first movie, but I don't think it would have worked if they just kept doing it every time. I honestly give this a 10 out of 10. I mean, they even showed a damn fine pair of bare titties at the beginning. And who doesn't like titties? But, unfortunately, a perfect score can only mean that it's only downhill from here. Final Destination 3 takes place in 2005. We're shown a group of senior high school students on a trip to the fun fair. Oh, we're back to high schoolers again. Cool. But don't worry, they're 18 this time. Meet Wendy, her boyfriend Jason, Carrie, and her boyfriend Kevin, who's kind of a dickhead. Wendy has a camera their school loaned to her to take photos of everyone for their yearbook. But she's really anxious for some reason, which to us means that she's the seer. After a bunch of trash teen behavior and a copious amount of butt shots, they get on the main attraction of the whole fair, the Devil's Flight roller coaster. And it's leaking hydraulic fluid, but doesn't tell anyone. There's a perfect cut of a guy about to throw up before they get in. The actor put 110% into his role, and they don't even show it. How sad is that? There's this annoying pervert, Frankie, holding a camera. He managed to sneak in onto the ride, which is against the rules for obvious reasons. He keeps pointing it at these two girls' titties, so one of them knocks it out of his hand at the loop-de-loop, where it falls and gets wrapped around the tracks beneath them. The roller coaster then runs it over, causing the leaky mechanism to fail completely and unbuckle all the passengers. Some wheels also get knocked out, causing a few cots to upgrade to planes. The hype train stops for no one, however, so it keeps on going, further deteriorating until it finally does stop at an upside down part. The remaining few passengers fall to their deaths, leaving only Kevin and Wendy, who manage to hold on and rock the ride back into motion. But they're not out of the woods yet, as Kevin gets cut in half on a loose piece of structure. And what's left of the ride ends up derailing with what's left of Wendy. The fun fair just turned not so fun and not so fair. Crazy how a small camera caused all this. Wendy then snaps out of it, as it all was the vision. She freaks out, they let her and Kevin off. Lewis, this guy, calls her a bitch, so Kevin fights him, and all three of them get kicked out.
Prepare to fight.
The two bimbos get the ick and also leave. Frankie follows them, of course. But Jason and Carrie aren't let off because they're at the front of the train, which then starts moving and takes everyone to their final destination. Hold up though, if Frankie got off and with him the camera that caused all of this in the vision, why did it still crash? Was the mechanism gonna fail anyway? If so, then what was the point of the whole camera thing? Whatever. Also, the premise is getting really predictable, so I hope they do something later to spice it up. Otherwise, this is gonna be very boring. A while later, Wendy's picking up her high school diploma when Kevin finds her and encourages her to attend the graduation party. She goes like, nope, fuck that, I'ma grab my shit and skip town. He tries to be a good friend and tells her he promised Jason to look after her, but she shuts him down.
On the ride for 3 minutes. If it wasn't for you and Jay being friends, me and Carrie being friends, we wouldn't have even hung out. We didn't even like each other.
Low-key feel bad for Kevin here. Like, yeah, he was a dickhead, but he's being supportive here. She could have at least turned him down nicely, and like, I get that she's grieving her partner, but so is he, yet he's being way more mature about it. She walks over to her car, all Blade Runner style, followed by Kevin, who tells her about the whole Flight 180 thing he found online while looking for an explanation, but that only pisses her off.
Fuck you, Kevin.
Well, that's a first. The seer herself doesn't buy the death theory this time. At home, Wendy is sobbing to her sister Julie about feeling guilty for not doing enough to stop the riot. You know how people say all Asians look the same? I'm starting to realize that white people are even worse. I literally can't even tell these two apart. I had to look up if they were twins, and apparently not. Julie is younger. Julie goes to prepare for the senior graduation party while Wendy goes through the camera. She notices a clue about Jason's death and a photo she took of him. It looks like the roller coaster is going right into his head. She then scrolls through the rest of the photos, and some have very obvious signs, while others are more subtle, like this one of the two bimbos, who are called Ashley and Ashlyn, by the way, because telling them apart wasn't hard enough as it is. The seed that Kevin planted in her head with the Flight 180 stuff starts growing. Then she remembers that the two bimbos invited her to go with them to a tanning salon before the graduation, and it clicks. Palm tree, beaches, tanning. The two are already at the salon, and they have comically large drinks, which is how you know this movie is set in America. I find these two to be insufferable. They aren't mean or anything, they're kinda sweet in their own dumb blonde way. They're just raw, unfiltered cringe. It feels like watching a caricature? How the fuck do you?
Caricature.
Of the bimbo stereotype. The salon owner, Yuri, lets the girls sort themselves out while he argues on the phone with his Slavic wife outside. In his infinite wisdom, he uses a bottle of sunblock out of all the objects in the shop to hold the door open. One of the girls brought her drink with her to the tanning room, despite Yuri saying not to. Then they prepare to get toasted. And they listen to Roller Coaster of Love while tanning. Nice one. The room slowly gets hotter, which causes condensation on the cup, and that condensation leaks into the bed's control box, causing them to slowly ramp up the heat, way past the safe limit. Titties get a lot more screen time in this movie. Not that I'm complaining or anything. The device keeps freaking out, but they don't hear it because they have AirPods on. It gets so hot in the room that the automatic ventilation switches on, knocking a coat rack over the shelf, which snaps off and lands like a bridge between the two beds, preventing either of them from getting out. The beds, being pushed way past the limit, eventually catch fire and cook both girls alive. The shop owner hears the girl screaming at one point, but is unable to help because the sunblock bottle obviously didn't do shit, and he still locked himself out.
Open the door!
A funeral is held where Ian, the goth kid, reveals that the two girls who died weren't actually 18.
These two girls never done shit to anybody. They don't get to make it to 18.
It was all one big jail. After the service, Wendy gets existential with Kevin at Jason's grave, saying she's felt an ominous presence ever since that night, to which a sudden gust of wind blows at them. I guess Death is being like, yep, that's me, look, I'm here. Maybe Death just wants to be friends, yo. Everyone has been running from it, but has anyone tried actually talking to it? I mean, it seemed to be best friends with the mortician. Anyhow, Wendy shows Kevin the last picture Abraham Lincoln posed for, which has a line across it, precisely where he got shot, caused by the photographic plate breaking. Then this photo, which... do I really need to explain? But I do love that a Final Destination movie references 9/11. I hope they make one about it one day. And finally, this photo of the pilot from the second movie that shows 180 on a road sign. Kevin, who told her about the plane, doesn't believe her, saying she can't believe anything just because she's desperate for an answer. Brother, you're the one who told her about it in the first place. He then shows him the photos she took of Jason and the bimbos, and that is enough to get him sold. Kevin drives them to get some food while Wendy goes through the photos. Based on their order on on the ride, Frankie should be next, but his photo isn't exactly helpful. Fortunately for them though, they won't have to wonder for too long, as a runaway box truck merrily makes its way towards them. The music choice in this scene is top notch. With no time to back out of the drive-thru and both doors obstructed, Kevin kicks out the windshield and they get out just before the truck smashes their pickup into the car in front of it, causing the engine to fly out and give the driver ahead of them a new haircut. And would you look at that? That driver was Frankie. Looking fresh, dog. I'm not a huge fan of this particular death. I'm pretty sure a radiator fan isn't hard or sharp enough to cut through a skull that cleanly. But what do I know? I ain't no mechanic or a doctor. Hi. Professional mechanic here. Has this ever happened to you? I bet it hasn't, because your radiator has a low quality, flimsy fan. I can see it in your eyes. This could be your truck one day, buddy. Are you prepared? No need to worry. Look no further than Lonely Fans. The best, sturdiest, most reliable, sharpest, sexiest, gosh darn fans on God's green earth. And if you already have one in your car, that means you already know our premium quality. But did you know we also sell all other types of fans, from computer fans all the way up to ship propellers? Whatever fan you need, you can get it at Lonely Fans. They're lonely because you'll only ever need one. Get yours today. Who cares? I hated Frankie anyway. Good riddance, I say. The world's a safer place for women now. Kev and Wen lose their shit because Frankie's death had absolutely nothing to do with this photo. But while going through all the photos again, they see the clue was actually right in their face, just in another photo. Kevin took an upskirt photo of a colleague as she passed by, and would you look at that? Very ironic that Frankie's death was foreshadowed in a panty shot. Live by the die by the
Meow meow nigga!
They then check Lewis's photo, whose turn is next, and it looks like something is gonna fall on his head. They decide to go warn him, and something tells me he's gonna be the I control my life guy in this movie. Also, Kevin adamantly refuses to look at his photo, saying that if he sees it, he will obsess over it and will not be able to lock in like he needs to. And I agree. We've seen it a bunch of times already, where attempts to avoid the clue end up causing it. Kevin Wen finds Lewis at the gym, and I can smell this room. Lewis doesn't buy it, as I predicted, says they're tweaking just to cope with their losses. Looking closer, Wendy sees sabers and a bear. Then she looks around her and sees sabers and a bear.
Lewis ain't afraid of no death. Fuck death!
I took offense to that.
The amount of testosterone in the room exceeds FDA recommended levels, and the sabers come loose directly above Lewis. But nothing actually happens, so he gets one more rep in for maximum gains.
Baby, I just win! What I tell you, Kevin, huh? Fuck that!
The swords actually sliced the weight cables, which added a single rep of Skull Crusher into his routine, and I can confidently tell you that this is even more bullshit than Frankie's fan. Do you know how hard these cables are? And they weren't even tensioned when it hit them. Zero chance they would be cut so easily. And also, what kind of retard designed this thing? Of all the designs for that range of motion out there, not a single one has weights on a cable-bound flap like this. It's just a shit design. Maybe they switched from it after this exact thing happened in real life. I don't know. Kev and Wen go find Ian and his girlfriend Erin at the Walmart they both work at to ask them who was behind them on the roller coaster because they can't remember, and the one photo from the ride that shows it is not exactly helpful. They find Erin first, and as usual, she doesn't believe them and even calls Ian over to point and laugh at them with her. Kev and Wen follow them around the warehouse as they work, trying to convince them, but they just keep being assholes to them.
So let me get this straight. I'm gonna OD on nail polish.
Write that down, write that down!
Watching these two work makes me think the unidentified person on the ride was an OSHA agent. I say was because they've already died of a stroke and committed sewer slide in 4 different ways after seeing these two work. And the OSHA gods are not to be messed with. Ian knocks some shit off a shelf onto a forklift, which holds down the accelerator, driving it into a display, which drops more shit on the forklift and actuates the lever, causing it to lift the whole thing, knocking over bigger shelves behind it, creating a domino effect that ends with a bunch of sharp and heavy shit falling towards Ian. However, Kevin pushes him out of the way and everyone ducks and survives the incident. Erin even gets her nails done to celebrate. The photo was right, yet again. She did die by a gun, just a different kind of gun. And it was Ian's fault, since he knocked the stuff on the forklift that set this whole sequence off. I'm glad Aaron went first, because that way Ian gets to suffer his loss. Yeah, I fucking hate this kid. I also like that Ian was gonna go before Aaron. Kevin didn't do the whole hero thing, because in Wendy's vision, they both fall at the upside down part, but Ian lets go first. I'm glad they're keeping it consistent. Kevin and Wen walk out of a police station and assume the mystery person's already dead, as they were supposed to go before Ian and Aaron. And we've already nailed half that job. They also assume Ian has been skipped, which, God, I hope not. I want him to die the worst death in the whole series. But if he did get skipped, that means Kevin's next, and then Wendy. Kevin and Wendy are falling for each other, like the other two movies, and pretty much any movie where a guy and a girl go through events together. Wendy says she'll be constantly worried about him if they separate.
Why? We don't even like each other.
While obsessing over the photos, Wendy notices that the mystery person had her sister's special charm bracelet on, but since she wasn't on the ride, it has to be one of her two besties,
Amber or Perry.
She hits up Kevin, telling him to keep an eye out for Julie and her friends at this tricentennial thing they're going to, where he just so happens to be working security, which is very convenient. He tells Wendy it's time to look at their picture because they're next. Hers is just a normal photo, but it has McFuckface on her shirt, which is the name of their high school and town, but also happens to be Ian's last name.
How pathetic is it that my last name is the same as my high school?
As for Kevin, his photo is just deep fried, like an explosion, or
like a firework went off in my face.
Wendy rushes to the ceremony and Ian tails her in his van as the song from Frankie's death plays on the radio.
There is someone walking behind you.
Yeah. It was actually still working in the first movie, but I don't think it would have worked and they just kept doing it every time. She gets there and tries to get to Julie, who is fleeing from Kevin because he tries to take her away. Then a firecracker startles the horse they were larking with, which is tied to the world's weakest pipe, and runs amok with the spike flailing behind it. Kevin finally catches up to Julie, but she's not very cooperative. Having just recreated her picture, in which a horse from the carousel appears to be headbutting her, the rampaging horse almost headbutts her, but Kevin shoves her out of his way. Kevin's doing a lot of shoving people out of harm's way these days. However, this time it proves futile as the horse's rope wraps around her neck and drags her with it. Kevin yanks a sword from one of the larpers and uses it to cut the rope she's being dragged by just a second before she got turned to Swiss cheese. Her heebies are absolutely fucking GB'd. Wendy tries to ask her who the person on the ride was, but the horse answers it for her. I went back to the vision and checked, but I can't seem to find any clear shot of this girl's face.
Do you remember Julie being on the roller coaster?
No, she would have said something by now.
Wendy's used to this shit, so she turns her attention immediately to who is now supposed to be next. The horse kicks him over the food stand where a gas hose ruptures and blows up the whole thing, but thanks to Wendy's quick thinking, she's able to pull him out just in time. Then Ian shows up and starts teasing Wendy, who's freaked out just by his presence as she thinks that he's her clue. Ian picks up on it and figures he is her clue, somehow, which she likes because he thinks she caused Aaron's death, some fucking how. He keeps getting in their way and being an asshole, insisting Wendy has to die for it all to be over, thinking that he's bulletproof now because he got skipped. Alright, big guy, you may be bulletproof, but are you fireproof? Oh, you are fireproof. Okay, but are you heavy as fuck objects proof? Yeah, I didn't think so. Rookie mistake to overlook that one. And I'm disappointed. I wanted him to suffer more. I am a bit confused why he died, though. I mean, I know why he died, but why did that happen? I am confused about the order. Now that Kevin got skipped, Wendy would have been next. You know what? I give up. I'm not gonna even try. We then jump 5 months into the future and all seems well. Wendy is chilling on the subway, on train 81 to be exact. Wait a minute. Then someone starts singing the song.
There is someone walking behind you.
So Wendy decides to get off at the next step, but when she gets there, Julie randomly gets on, and Wendy just forgets about her impending doom. Not exactly something I would forget, personally. She does tell Julie that she has a shit feeling, but Julie's like, nah, we've been over this. It skipped the 3 of us. She humors Wendy and reminds her she's the last on the list anyway, so as long as Julie and Kevin are fine, she has nothing to worry about. You know, good thing Kevin isn't on this cursed train with them. Oh.
I was gonna.
Well, shit.
The end.
Fuck literally everyone else on the train, I guess. Maybe they were all gonna die anyway, and Death decided to just clean up the roller coaster leftovers while we're here. Guess you could say that the subway train took them to their final destination. Did I like this movie? It was alright. Some deaths made no fucking sense, like Frank and Lewis. The effects and sets have improved a lot though. They also introduced a full-on hateable character, Ian, which was a nice addition. Also, the whole subway thing at the end is a very subtle callback to the second movie. When Kim gave the survivors the burner phones, she used the subway as an example.
If I call and say, I don't know, subway, get to a high-rise fast, a place where no subway or possibly go, get it?
I think that's pretty neat. However, they didn't bring back the mortician, so I'd give this one an 8 out of 10. I give credit for the amount of tits and ass they showed, but it was jailbait, so I'm not gonna give them points for it. Fuck it, 9 out of 10. As I said, the real problem is that the premise is getting old, so I can't say I was that excited watching it. I don't think there's that much they can do to spice it up, which makes me very excited that I have to watch 2 more. I've only seen the first 3 as a kid, so from this point onwards, it's uncharted territory for me. The 4th movie, released in 2009, is called The Final Destination, instead of just being numbered like the rest. That is because it was originally intended to be the last movie of the series, but then it did really well, so they changed their mind and made a 5th. And then they were done for real. But now they changed their mind again. We find ourselves at a NASCAR race, and our characters are Lori, her boyfriend Nick, Hunt, the giant gaping asshole who's only here hoping to be a crash, and Janet, Lori's bestie. Nick's end of the bench cracks, and he gets the patented Final Destination ick, which means he's our seer. A bunch of small details happen, most notably someone whistling a song called Dixie, and since the subtitle cared to point out the name of the song, I assume that's our song for this movie. They're still doing that bit. Cool.
What kind of animal are you?
I'm a dolphin.
What? Just what? What?
In the pits, one of the cars takes off too early and snags a screwdriver with it from the pit crew, and it later falls onto the track and pops another car's tire, causing it to spin out and start flipping like food. A girl in the audience is sick and tired of this shit. The wrecked car gets hit by another car, which blows up and flies at the audience. And I always wondered why they only have these flimsy ass fences between the audiences and the track.
Is it safe to sit here? Of course, there's a fence there. We're fine.
So that was a fucking lie.
I get that they need to be able to see, but can't they at least make the solid base a little taller? A cascade of explosions and crashes happen on the track, throwing more shit at the now fleeing and panicking crowd. Nick's cracked bench snaps as people run over it, creating a very convenient spike. But that's too obvious. Surely they won't kill someone with that 4 movies in. Some of the deaths here are extremely goofy. There's this racist couple who gets sliced in half by a metal panel, and they just switch to ragdoll physics and slowly collapse like Fallout NPCs. Another lady gets slightly trampled but survives it, only to have an engine thrown at her. A whole ass engine flying out of an exploding car in one solid piece, and not even tumbling. It just glides over and lands perfectly on her. The lengths people will go to get a flat tummy is insane these days. Bro lets his tired girlfriend rest and tries to make his way through the benches. But he didn't see that one coming. The cars keep trying to drive through the burning, smoking pileup instead of not. Y'all ain't Lightning McQueen. Just pump the brakes, Habibi. Also, I feel like NASCAR cars are specifically designed in a way that makes them harder to explode than this. But we're too deep in this series to be asking why stuff explodes.
Hold it right there.
Yeah, about that. Apparently, these races usually don't stop, no matter how fucked up it gets, so long as the track is still usable. That includes the actual real-life disaster that this movie is based on, which is the 1995 Le Mans disaster in France, where the race kept going despite about 84 people dying, among which is a participant in the race. And apparently the goofy kills, like the couple sliced in half and the flying engine block, are all based on true events from that incident, according to the Wikipedia page. So I take it back. Engines can fly after all, I guess. Also, since they made a movie based on a real-life tragedy, they now have to make one about 9/11. There's no excuse. If you've already crossed into real life events, you have to do the most notorious and frankly most milked one ever. Back to me now. One such exploding car flies at the audience and causes a partial collapse of the structure, which crushes a bunch of people, including Janet and Han. He did say he wanted a crash.
You come here hoping to see a crash?
Of course it's to see a crash.
The monolith was listening.
Твой путь завершается. Иди ко мне.
Nick and Lori almost make it out, but then she stops for no reason, and a car blows up right behind her, turning her and the security guy beside her medium rare, and giving Nick a crash course on pole dance. Yeah, I'm afraid he ain't cut out for it. The vision ends and Nick does the whole freaking out and rambling thing, which pisses off some people who follow him outside to beat his ass.
What crash?
Nick just saved these people's lives, but Death decides that fuck this chick in particular, still, and retires her anyway.
Have you all lost your fucking mind?
Now we just need someone to get skewered by an exhaust pipe to match the tired puns. On a side note, the acting is noticeably worse in this movie, which makes it really hard to give a shit about anything or anyone. Our four heroes do the most logical thing possible after dodging death itself and sit at a cafe called Death by Caffeine. Yeah. The table literally says it's coming.
What is it?
You would think a bunch of white people who just touch tips and nips with death would go to literally any other cafe in America. But these aren't your average white people, you see. These are white people headed to their final destination. So naturally they are gonna be a little more dense than usual. It just comes with the territory. They go over the vision, but Nick tells Janet to just forget about it, which is kind of a big ask considering she watched a girl get liquefied by a tire just a couple steps from her. But what else can they do anyway? Which is exactly what Hunt says.
If we made it, we deserved it.
You know, I don't know about deserving it. If it wasn't for Nick crashing out and dipping, despite literally everyone else there telling him to fuck off, they would all be chilling with Hades right now. Also, Hunt has a lucky coin he keeps fidgeting with. That'll be relevant later. The news show that a memorial will be held the following day at the McFuckface Speedway. Yes, McFuckface as in Ian's last name from the third movie. Lori wants to pay respects, Janet is too freaked out to go, Hunt doesn't give a shit, and Nick says they were given a second chance, and so they should make the most of it. And he immediately starts mewing. Nick and Lori meet Samantha and her husband at the memorial. She was the engine lady from the Vision, which was very hard to tell actually when watching this for the first time, because god fucking damn it, white people really do all look the same.
You're a hero.
No.
Then the black security guy walks up and introduces himself as George. But before they get a chance to talk, Mr. Dipshit walks up like,
You killed my wife.
Who the fuck starts a conversation like that? I just sat down.
No the fuck he didn't. You did. All George did was not let him back in to save her, but like, look at this guy. Does this motherfucker look like he could have saved anyone? Bro himself needs saving. It would take like 4 Jesuses for that face alone. Mr. Dipshit makes it very clear that he's the hateable character in this movie.
I'm sorry for your loss.
Well, nobody lives forever, Nick.
His real name is Carter, by the way. And like, seriously? Y'all cooked up Kalarjian but couldn't come up with any generic white name and reused one from an older movie for this bitch? I'll continue referring to him as Mr. Dipshit though, because honestly it fits him. That night, Nick gets a cursed CGI nightmare where he sees a door followed by a bunch of random items and then a flame.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
He wakes up scared, but it's not believable at all. Like, even Lori doesn't buy it and gives him a blowy just to make him stop. And spoiler alert, his 3-inch wonder ain't the only thing getting blown tonight. Then we see another clue. The wind blows a scalpel off a table and stabs a photo of Samantha in the eye. Not sure why Nick and Lori would have such a photo of her and her husband, but whatever. Mr. Dipshit gets shit-faced and waits in his inbred truck outside of George's house until he goes to sleep. Then this dumbass, who is 1 beer from blacking out, grabs a giant wooden cross he made and a shovel, but he's so drunk that he accidentally knocks the toe chain loose. Then he stumbles over to George's lawn and just starts digging. Not sure what the game plan is here, and sadly, we never get to find out because his horseshoe charm falls and turns the obnoxiously loud radio on, which knocks over the remaining beers over the transmission, sending the car rolling down the road. As it starts moving, the tow chain unwinds and knocks open a gas nozzle he has in the back for some reason. Can we just take a moment to appreciate this truck? Big as fuck, ugly, loud, obnoxious, full of junk. It must be the result of countless generations of vehicular incest. Anyway, he tries to get into the truck to stop it, but the doors locked themselves, because of course they did. So he just gives up and calls the truck's mom a hoe, which it takes very personally. His leg gets yanked on the tow chain and gets dragged along the gas trail, which ignites from the chain's friction against the asphalt. George hears the commotion and walks out to this absolute freak show. And then the grand finale that KK kills Mr. Dipshit. And that is the other thing getting blown that night. It's worth mentioning that all the random shit from Nick's nightmare was involved in Mr. Dipshit's death, but because the nightmare wasn't really memorable and looked exactly like opening a video game loot box, I only noticed one of them before going back to check. Next morning, Lori sees Mr. Dipshit's goofy death on the news, so she calls Nick over and he recognizes George's front door on TV, saying it wasn't his nightmare. Nick then gets another cursed unboxing foreshadowing the next death.
This is so ass, Connor! This is so ass!
Oh yeah, I hate this. Instead of obscure clues that they have to find and piece together, Nick just gets visions of random stuff to look out for, which I think is lame as hell. Just put the clues in the bag, bro. There's a lot of fan service in this movie, starting now with Lori chilling in panties and a crop top. Which is good because I really need all the motivation I can get to keep watching the slop. God, the acting is ass.
When you're something freaky, I've seen that door before.
Nick has a meltdown and tells Lori he thinks the dream was a vision about Mr. Dipshit's death and that he just saw another one, but he doesn't know exactly who it is about. I know the characters aren't supposed to know what we know because they haven't watched 3 movies exactly like the one they're in, but my god, is it getting old. Like, having to watch them figure it out and their NPC acting is not helping. Like, can we just get a super cut of the clues and the deaths, please, and skip this movie? Samantha is stuck with her 2 crotch goblins, who are being menaces to society and chucking rocks across the road. So to get them to fuck off, she gives them some cash and sends them off to the arcade while she gets dolled up for girls' night. For those who don't know, girls' night is this thing where 3 or more girls get together in the woods, light a fire and burn a man in it while they dance naked around him. Once he's burned, they lay down and face up. Then, beams of demonic energy shoot out of their cooters and connect at the man's skull, where they combine and shoot up towards the moon. This ritual was very popular before Plan B hit the shelves in 1999, but now it's mostly just done for recreation. I got this story from a number I found on a public bathroom wall. Back to Sam. You know how hairdresser chairs have a pedal on the bottom that makes it taller? Well, this one has a faulty one and keeps going down on its own, which was in Nick's vision, as well as Joe over here. There was also a pair of scissors, a ceiling fan, and a hair iron, all of which you could find at a beauty salon. Notice anything? That blade kinda looks familiar. A bottle of hairspray slides across the counter and gets caught in a hair iron. While that cooks, we look at the ceiling fan that's starting to come off, but hanging on for now. While all that is happening, the hairdresser works on Sam's hair with scissors, and then that chair slips and...
I'm so sorry.
Nothing happened. The movie's just fucking with us. The 2 goblins then bust into the salon, and one of them slips and falls, making a mess. Annoying kids falling is just fucking hilarious, okay? The hairspray can is done cooking and rockets towards the ceiling fan, knocking it loose right on top of the floor. I think this is the longest we've been edged so far, stepping into gooning territory at this point, which is cool because I like gooning. Sam promises the goblins an ass kicking when they get home and tells them to get in the car. But little did she know, they were always 2 steps ahead. The rocks they were tossing earlier weren't random. They were strategically placed to get launched by Joe's lawnmower at Sam and basically to blow her brains out.
I've got my eye on you two.
Very poor choice of words.
Let this be a warning to all parents. Threaten your child enough times and you run the risk of them plotting your stone cold death. Also, the rock hit her in the same spot where the blade hit her foot earlier. I'm glad there's at least some small clues left outside the visions. Following Sam's impromptu LASIK, Lori and Nick invite the other 2 over to tell them about Nick's premonitions and research they did on the previous movies, to which they do the whole "it's just a coincidence bro" spiel. And while Hunt's unserious attitude,
we just lost a really hot MILF,
would normally be annoying, I seriously don't care about about anything in this movie, and I cannot take it serious. Nick reveals that the weird unboxing thing is actually how he sees the visions.
I was like these
Nuts.
random sounds and images.
It's not like the movie's giving us the rundown of the visions or anything, which I think is even worse because when something makes that little sense to him, it's impossible for him to miss it. Whereas in previous movies, the clues were hidden and they actually had to look for them, notice patterns and fill in gaps with deductions and theories, while Nick over here just is given basically a trailer for the deaths, and that's just it.
And I realized I'd actually seen how the next person was gonna die.
That's just so lazy. Janet, who's into superstitious mumbo-jumbo, believes them and asks who's next. Unfortunately, Nick forgot and says even if they intervene and skip someone, their destination remains final. They just take the next bus. Janet crashes out and dips, and Hunt calls them crazy and then also dips, but instead of crashing out, he declares full YOLO status and says if he's gonna die anyway, it's high time he tried all the kinky shit he's been curious about but couldn't quite ask for. And that's all nice and dandy, but there's one little problem. And this applies to the third movie too, actually. Why is research always focused on Flight 180? Surely Kim and Burke would be mentioned somewhere along the whole death rabbit hole. They are literally the only two to defy death and actually survive it. You'd think that's a more important thing to look into than the Flight 180, where everyone still ended up dying anyway. So here's how that would go. You'd hit up Kim and tell her you're facing the same thing she did. She will tell you about the whole resuscitation exploit. You will thank her profusely, then contact your insurance and make sure they cover everything, because there's no point in winning back your life if you're gonna spend it paying off a hospital bill. Then you go to a hospital and kill yourself, just enough that you die, but can still be brought back. And it's literally that simple.
Ain't tough. You're in the home stretch.
Anyway, Nick and Laurie question their own sanity, but then Nick gets the third trailer, so he knows this is for real and he ain't tweaking. Nick holds on to hope that they can beat death, and their first step is to go back to the track to figure out the order, but he only manages to remember the first three, which is worthless because those three are already dead. George, the security guy, catches them and both of their pants turn brown. They tell him about the death theory, which he's kind of on the fence about, but he offers to show them the security footage from the incident anyway. Using the footage, they figure out the rest of the order, and it goes like Andy, who underwent the skincare routine of Vlad the Impaler, then Hunt and Janet, who got turned to pancakes, George and Laurie, who got cooked, and finally, Nick, the shish kebab. Nick suggests that keeping Andy safe could break the chain. I assume he meant preventing him from facing death altogether and not just intervening when death's already onto him, because then it would just skip him, which only buys time and doesn't solve anything. Only problem is, short of putting him in a padded room like Clear willingly did, death will always find a way. And that is assuming he believes them and is cooperative, which they never are. But at least finding him is not gonna be a problem, as his workplace is written on his jacket in the footage.
Brand State Customs.
The next day, our merry trio, yes, George overcame his skepticism and tagged along, make their way to Grand State Customs and just walk into the workshop like it's nobody's business. Then Laurie demonstrates exactly why not everyone should be allowed in there, as she gets startled and shits her pants, almost doing Andy in herself. As far as trying to warn someone, this has to be the bluntest way to go about it.
3 of the people who left that stadium before that accident happened, they're now dead. You're gonna be next.
Like, damn, that's a 180 in attitude.
If you saw somebody die right in front of her, would it kill you to be sensitive?
Is it because Janet's a woman? Is this movie saying women have to be spoon-fed bad news while men can just take it head on? Is this movie sexist? Andy.exe stops working.
You serious?
So the task manager tells them all to get the fuck out of the warehouse, where Andy tells them he just wants to get his life back together after his girlfriend went to sleep forever. She was called Nadia, by the way, but I'll keep calling her Tired Girl because that's just funny. George tells him he can relate, as he lost his daughter and wife in a car crash because he was drunk driving, and now he wonders every day why them and not him. And it's a really touching scene, honestly. Or it could have been, if George's line delivery didn't sound like he's reading off a teleprompter for the first time in his life.
Every day I ask myself, how come it couldn't be me instead of them?
Retakes are a thing, guys. Even I do them sometimes, and I just make shit YouTube videos with a negative budget, which you can help with, by the way, by buying me a coffee through the link in the description. Like, come on, dog. If you're still watching this far into this long-ass video, I think I earned it. The opposite of holy water spills over and causes an electric malfunction, which causes the van on a car lift to be sent barreling straight towards Andy. But death is edging us yet again, as the winch that the van is hooked to stops it, literally within an inch from dicing up Andy on the fence. He squeezes out, declares himself safe, and swaggers back to the warehouse. The winch is so excited to see Andy again, it literally flies. Unfortunately, it bonks a gas tank and sends it flying at Andy, which finishes what the van couldn't. You know, it's a shame that Brian's grill blew up in his face. He could have grilled us some mean Andy cubes for lunch now. Also, hold the fuck up. Bro died to a leaky gas tank, so technically, in a way, he is exhausted. Tired Girl's boyfriend is exhausted. I take it back. This movie's not so bad. The gang have a little meltdown, then decide to split up. George and Laurie will try to find Janet, and Nick will go get Han. Both of which are next on the list, but Nick's not sure which one's first, since they both go at the same time. Janet gives a few pennies to the physical manifestation of choosing beggars, who's so upset about it he throws one across the street, scaring some pigeons off. One of them is so scared, actually, that it shits itself. But since birds don't wear clothes, it actually shits Janet's windshield. While Nick tries to get a hold of Hunt by the phone, he sees this sign. Y'all remember Clear from the first two movies? Her last name was Rivers. Yeah, it's really cheesy. Clear Rivers. Therefore, the sign unlocks the next trailer, which features mainly water and pipe work. So he leaves Hunt a voice message telling him to stay the fuck away from water and decides to go find him in person. Meanwhile, Janet finally answers Laurie's call, but it's only to tell her she'll call her back in a second because she's heading into the car wash. Yeah, you know what? This bitch deserves to die. What the fuck was that? Who does that? You either hang up or take the call for real. I'm not getting charged for a call just to hear you say you'll call back. And since they are blowing up her phone, this dumb bitch should have figured out that it's something urgent. Also, the car wash is probably bad news for her, as it essentially is just a big old pile of water and pipes. Laurie and George decide to go to the nearest car wash, which is kinda dumb considering America has a disgusting number of gas stations and car washes, but it's their only lead and time is tight, so Hail Mary, let's hope for the best. Inside the car wash, Janet finally takes the call, but it's spotty. She can only make out stay away from the water before losing service entirely. Yeah, as we've established, Janet is a dumb bitch. A common symptom of dumb bitch syndrome is the inability to follow simple, direct instructions, like the one this big ass sign outside has on it, telling her to retract her car's antenna. As a result, the brush yeets it into a fuse box that causes the little wheels moving the car along to stop. She panics and tries to get out of the car, which is indicative she's in the late stages of dumb bitch syndrome. You know what's the safest place to be inside an active car wash? Inside the car. She tries to drive out, but that doesn't do shit, as the car wheels are on another set of wheels that just spin against it. The car, worried that it might be suffocating Janet inside of it, opens the sunroof on its own. You know, these smart cars are really considerate sometimes, aren't they? Except this is actually shit news considering the whole car wash situation. This is yet another symptom of dumb bitch syndrome, by the way, because her sunroof has been acting up all day, opening and closing on its own, and she still took that shit to a car wash anyway. You know, I'm afraid it might be terminal. A water pipe that is very conveniently placed directly above the now open sunroof snaps and starts pouring a metric ton of water into her car. Sunroof? More like rain roof?
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
She tries to get out through it to avoid drowning, but only manages to get her head out when it decided to decapitate her. But it's not nearly strong enough, so it just traps her head in there. The blown fuse box now enters post nut clarity and lets the car move again, slowly inching Janet's empty head towards a mean-looking brush. But just before she gets the world's most violent makeup, George and Laurie shove their car in front of hers and push it back. Then Laurie gets out, forces the sunroof open, and pulls her dumbass friend out. That's what you get for ignoring your friend's frantic attempts to contact you during a seriously fucked up period of all of your lives. In their last desperate attempts from death, a heavy ass pipe snaps above them, but it's too short to reach the ladies, which I find very relatable, as I too struggle with a massive heavy pipe that can't seem to ever reach any ladies. Anyway, after brushing with Beth, Janet is skipped and safe for now, which only means it's now time to go hunting. Hunt is busy being a massive dick while simultaneously giving tiny dick to a random chick at a resort, just like he said he would. And I'm noticing a trend here. The first movie had no sex whatsoever or nudity, aside from the boys' bathroom scene, but that shit doesn't count. The second movie only had a few seconds of titties at the start. And then in the third movie, ass and tits had more screen time than many of the characters. And now, it's just straight up sex. This is an observation and not a complaint, by the way. Then he finally almost sees Nick's message about avoiding water, but a little shit in the pool shoots him with a super soaker and fucks up his foe. Bro does the only acceptable response in such a situation, which is to snatch the water gun and bully the kid. Bet he won't be harassing strangers again after that. Fuck that kid. Not literally, no. Hunt, get the Bro throws the water gun away, where it hits the pool controls and starts draining it. He can't seem to catch a break, however, as shortly after he sits by the pool, a stray golf ball from the course next door hits him, sending his lucky coin rolling out of his hand and into the pool, which is now being drained without anyone noticing. So, the coin gets sucked into the drain, whose grate has broken and is now greedily sucking anything it can get a hold of, just like a drunk college girl. Bro jumps in after his coin, but instead gets sucked himself, ass first, into the drain and blocks it. Then Nick arrives looking for him, just in the nick of time. I'm not entirely sure how he knew to come here, but okay. I also find it really hard to believe that not one single person sitting or walking around here sees Hunt stuck down there to the perfectly clear water in a pool that's only a few meters deep. Bitch, is you blind? Especially Nick, who is actively looking for him and knows that water is the threat. Regardless, it's now Hunt's ass versus the drain pump in a classic man versus machine showdown. But alas, as we all know, machine always wins when it comes to raw power. And after a valiant struggle, Hunt's ass folds and gets forced through the tiny pipe. The sudden shift in pressure causes the pump to burst skywards and starts raining Hunt's smoothie with his lucky coin on top. Very ironic how his lucky coin led him to his demise. As dumb as Janet is, he could have been alive if he'd only listened to her earlier.
Hunt, will you give the lucky coin shit a rest, please?
It seems Hunt is at an even later stage of dumb bitch syndrome than her. I wonder if they both came with it or if one of them infected the other. I hear it can be very contagious. Laurie and George have a classic
"Why are we still here? Just to suffer?"
moment because Laurie is sad George is next, but he takes it like an absolute skibbity sigma male giga chad.
No, it's okay.
Or maybe he's just depressed, I don't know. And with that, Bro goes home and contemplates suicide, since, you know, he's dying anyway, so he might as well do it himself. Meanwhile, Laurie and Nick do what he calls safe-proofing the house, which is the stupidest thing I have heard in the series so far. And that is saying a lot considering everything we've seen.
We need to safe-proof this death trap.
You see, when you make something X-proof, it means you're making it resistant to X, right? So to safe-proof their house, that means they're making it as unsafe as possible. At any rate, Laurie wonders how George is so chill about it all. I'm not even sure how they knew George goes first. They were caught in the same explosion in the vision. Not to mention that Bro is built like a van, whereas she's just a small girl, so her odds had to be worse. The only possible explanation I can think of is that even the explosions are racist over there.
Nobody lives forever.
She thinks Nick should stay away from her so Death doesn't score a double kill and unlock the next score streak, but he hits her with the "we both live or we both die" shit, which again would be very touching if Bro talked like a normal human being. I have expected him to drop a
patrol in the Mojave almost makes you wish for a nuclear winter.
At any point during this scene. The wind knocks coffee over a newspaper and soaks it, except for a part that says action. So they spring to action and go get George. His front door is unlocked, so they just let themselves in, which is very rude. Like, what if Bro's in the shower or just taking a shit?
What are you doing here?
Hi.
Please get out, I'm taking a shit.
The house is dead silent when suddenly silence is broken by a noise from the bedroom. So they rush over there and find George hanging from a noose. They do the only logical thing to do in such a situation, which is to just stand there and watch until the soul starts leaving your friend's body and he starts convulsing. Then you help him down. But no worries, the rope snaps on its own anyway. Yeah, that's about as strong as I'm holding on right now. Bro's been trying to kill himself all day, but couldn't.
Skill issue.
As you've probably guessed, Death only likes it when they play hard to get. So now that George is trying to kill himself, it's keeping him alive instead of taking him. Hold on a sec though, let me cook. If Death wants them to run away so it can chase them, which it will always win, maybe the play is to stop running from it and start running towards it. That way it will not take them. But that would still leave the possibility of a bait and switch, where one of those times it actually lets them kill themselves, which would technically count as unexpected because they did it expecting it not to take them. Damn, this is like 3 layers of reverse psychology. Laurie uses all 3 brain cells that she has and concludes that this means saving Janet has indeed destroyed the list. So they pop a champagne and celebrate before retreating to the bedroom for a threesome. One thing that dumbass Laurie didn't consider though, if the list is broken, why does Death refuse to take George then? He's supposed to be just a regular dude now. Death will not go out of its way to save or take him, but this intervention by Death should very clearly tell them it's still not done with them and is just waiting to do it the fun way. Seems like there's an ongoing dumb bitch syndrome outbreak over there. A few days pass and the couple have a newfound appreciation for life. So much so that they're going to Amsterdam. Nick's at home packing and Laurie's out shopping and watching Brain Rot with Janet, which is so based. Can we normalize going to the movies and leaving your partner at home if they're not interested? I would rather stay at home and watch the cinematic masterpiece that is 10 hours of spinning cat than go watch any Marvel movie. While packing, Nick drops a book, which gives him another trailer. Oh, so they aren't off the hook after all. Who'd have seen that coming? That is so crazy. I was so confused what the remaining 26 minutes were all about. Yeah, anyway, the trailer shows mainly water and the pharmaceuticals logo, which could be an ad for ribbed condoms if you think about it. Nick stumbles and knocks the remote to the ground, which turns on the TV that is conveniently playing news about a new survivor they didn't know about. The cowboy type guy. Let's just call him Woody. He was later rescued from the rubble at the speedway. So, Nick rushes to the hospital, bros at, and calls George to meet him there. I was very skeptical about this randomized guy surviving despite never getting out. But when I went back to check in the vision, George directs some people, including Lori, Nick, and Woody, towards a certain exit. But on the way there, a car crushes Woody. So by taking George outside, Nick actually did change bro's fate, and he could totally end up stuck under the rubble instead of being obliterated by the car. Back at the hospital, some old racist crippled fuck called Mr. Subi is going through PT. Fun fact, Subi is also the last name of the detective who had like 4 seconds of screen time in the second movie. That's 2 recycled names in the same movie. They really just put all their naming power into collagen and are just now reusing shit. Or maybe this is the detective's racist pops, I don't know. The nurse is filling up a tub to bathe this shriveled up testicle, but then gets called out of the room and forgets to turn off the water. Somehow. So the tub overflows and the crippled fuck can't do shit about it. Yeah, not so tough now, are you?
Little bitch.
In the room directly underneath, Woody is woken up by dripping water, which quickly turns into a full-on leak. He reaches for the call nurse button, but it zaps him because it's wet. The button, not the nurse. The devices in his room start glowing from the water, so he throws himself out of the bed and painstakingly crawls away as the water keeps pooling in the room above, which is horseshit because no room is that airtight. The duo finally get to bro's room and find him crawling on the floor, and again, instead of taking action like death itself has spelled out for them to do, they just stare at him and wait. Pour 1 out. Outside the hospital, George gets bad vibes, but he calls it deja vu. He says his wife used to say deja vu is God's way of hitting black people with a van. No, seriously, look.
My wife said that deja vu is like God's way.
Yeah, I shouldn't have said bro was built like a van earlier. Sorry, dog. While all these horrors are unfolding, Lori and Janet have absolutely no idea about anything and go about their girl stuff. But then, out of nowhere, some bozo runs an RC car that looks exactly like the one from the speedway into Lori's feet, which gives her bad vibes like George got. But in her case, it's probably PTSD and not deja vu. And it's definitely not a speeding van. She doesn't have to worry about any vandalism. Lori buys sneakers because Nick likes her in them. W taste, by the way. Girls in sneakers and round glasses are my weakness. This is also good because it's a long walk from the mall to her final destination. Remember how I keep saying characters in these movies are dumb as hell? Well, Lori doesn't tie the laces of her shoes that she just bought for some reason, so they get caught on the escalator steps, and everyone's biggest fear is about to come true. The escalator nears its end and her whole life starts flashing before her eyes, and then... What are you? 5? Getting sucked into an escalator is impossible. Lori gets even better vibes from this, but still pushes it down because she is convinced death has already taken the L. Meanwhile, in a part of the mall that's under construction, the tarp they have hung up to keep the sun out loosens, letting in just a little bit of sun, which gets focused through the safety glasses on a pile of sawdust. Safety glasses? More like... danger glasses? Yeah, I got nothing. While all that is happening, Nick rushes to the mall because Lori isn't answering her phone and doesn't know she's in danger. Bro then gets the next trailer, the key features being gears, fire, nails, a flammable sign, and an explosion in a theater. The explosion is also timed with an explosion scene in a 3D movie because Death has a sense of humor, apparently. At the construction site, the tarp flies completely off and turns on an industrial fan which pushes a trolley full of chemicals.
Anything off the trolley, dears?
A trail of angry fluid from the sawdust to a bunch of tools and a stockpile of combustible drums is formed. And all that fun stuff is located right behind the theater where Lori and Janet are, by the way. Lori's having a mental breakdown, but Janet keeps telling her it's just PTSD. The sawdust finally ignites and the chemical trail catches the fire and sends it to the trolley of flammable stuff. Someone's phone rings behind Lori and you will never guess the ringtone. It was Dixie, the song from the track. A bunch of other small details that also happened before the crash happen here again, which Lori remembers and crashes out. So Janet tells her if she doesn't shut the fuck up and let her watch the movie, she's gonna shove PTSD's nuts down her throat. Wasn't Janet the super sensitive, superstitious, freaked out girl like 20 minutes ago? How come she's already over all the death and shenanigans that she saw, let alone telling Lori that it's all in her head? At any rate, Nick arrives and sees a bajillion theaters playing the gay movie, so he goes through them one by one yelling her name. I don't blame her given the circumstances, but he must have looked really stupid to the people inside. He finally finds the right hall and Lori comes to him. He tells her it ain't over yet and that George is now an 18+ Lego set and it's time to go. But Janet finally snaps.
No, I can't keep doing this, okay? You're both nuts.
Damn bitch, what happened to you? The two gave up on her and bailed. Then the movie shows just how far 3D technology has come. Nailed it. I had the same problem with this entire series of events that I had with the subway crash in the third movie. Was this explosion always gonna happen and the loose ends just happened to be there? Or were all these poor motherfuckers just collateral damage around these three? If so, they must be very pissed that after all of that, Death only got one of them. While the married couple are running down a stopped escalator, a piece of structure falls and breaks it, revealing its geared mechanism. Some hold on and don't let me go later. Lori's foot gets caught in the mechanism and it looks like this is GG. Also, she started bleeding from her mouth the instant her foot got crushed. Anatomy's crying in the corner over there. Is this what free bleeding really means? Anyways, the gears pulled her in and turned her into mincemeat.
Mayonnaise on an escalator! It's going upstairs, so see you later! Bye-bye!
Psych bitch! Nick snaps back to reality next to George, who is telling him about deja vu, and all that we just saw was a vision, including the vision in it. Okay, as shit as this movie has been so far, this switcheroo got me real good. Maybe the predictability was to condition us for this final bait and switch, and maybe it doesn't even make that much sense, but who cares? It's a Final Destination movie. Nothing has to make sense. Unfortunately, poor George still gets turned to Lego, but Nick now has a very detailed idea of what's about to happen, so he rushes to the mall and doesn't waste time searching. The bus that triggered the last trailer on his way to the mall isn't here this time around, which kind of bothers me because the bus was kind of significant. It wasn't just random traffic, but you know, whatever. Instead of dragging Lori out of the theater and leaving Janet to her very deserved fate, this time he tries to solve it all at the source, the construction site. And he's here just on time as the fire is already going. He pulls the fire alarm, but it's not even hooked to anything, so it doesn't do shit. Yeah, great idea, guys. Tear out the fire alarm in a fucking construction site. It's a good thing the OSHA dude already died in the third movie before they had to see this. Nick's next option is a fire extinguisher he finds over there, which does help him put out most of the fire, but it craps out on him at the last patch. So he goes full Isaac Clarke on the fire like it's a necromorph. And eventually puts it out. Unfortunately for him, however, the extinguisher he threw hit a workbench, tilting it, and the shit on it is slowly sliding off now. Even more unfortunate, and straight up frustrating honestly, a singular stray piece of ember flies over to another pile of stuff which was more than happy to catch fire. And so Nick's short-lived victory quite literally goes up in flames, but hey, this fire is far from the explodey stuff at least. He has time to figure something out, or he would have if not for the nail gun that finally falls off the table and starts spraying nails everywhere, piercing the barrels and pinning him by the arm to the wall. Look, I get that it's an industrial nail gun and packs a hell of a punch, but no fucking way it's doing all that from that distance.
Well, I just can't seem to get away from that spot right there in the middle. But even though it hit a very compromised spot on the torso, it still went completely sideways and did not penetrate. These nails are obviously not rifled or designed to fly through the air straight like that. So on the slow-mo, it looks like it actually did hit pretty hard, but it was probably tumbling through the air and went completely sideways before it even hit the torso, which is kind of what I expected. This was a very interesting test. I would say the movies are definitely somewhat unrealistic. I'm sure we all kind of knew that, but a powder actuated nail gun like this could absolutely be lethal and maybe even effective in a self-defense pinch, just not from 20 feet away. It's probably either point blank or nothing at all.
Nick never thinks to use his free hand to pull out the nails for some reason. I'm not saying it's guaranteed to work, I'm saying that's the first thing literally anyone would do in that situation. What he does try is pulling his arm by the elbow, which is not only the least effective way out, but also the most painful, and would pretty much destroy his arm in the process. He then notices the angry juice leaking out of the barrels and making its way towards the fire, and realizes how cooked he is. So he pulls a burning plank closer with his foot, then grabs it and swings it at the sprinklers to trigger them, and it works. The fire gets put out just as the barrels were starting to get really pissed. Bro defused with 0.01 seconds left on the timer for real. I gotta say, that has to be the world's shittiest sprinkler system ever. The entire room was on fire for like, I don't know, however long it's been, and it didn't budge. If the fire needs to be that close to trigger it, they might as well just not bother installing it. Just put a guy up there with a bucket of water, that would be more effective. 2 weeks later, he's getting coffee at the Death by Caffeine Cafe with the 2 chicks. Again, seriously guys, you still go there?
What's wrong with you? You lovely people. Crazy!
You saved a lot of lives, man.
No.
While sitting there, Nick proposes the possibility that they still haven't changed anything, because what if instead of death, it's actually Nikocado Avocado haunting them? And he's always 2 steps ahead, as we all know, so surely they haven't won yet. And much to everyone's dismay, Nick is proven right, as a scaffolding of tires collapses and sends a truck swerving towards them, and it obliterates the 3 of them in the same original order. I guess the cafe can rebrand to Death by Caffeine and Trucks after they clean up everything. Or maybe even leave it as it is and just change the name. That make the experience more authentic. What's ironic about this is that on his way to the cafe, Nick did point out that the scaffolding looked funny to the guy on it. So that was Final Destination 4, and it was pretty mid, honestly. As I said, the acting was dog water, and I didn't like the whole mini visions thing. The clues and signs were a lot more interesting. That being said, I did like how all the visions had the words "It's here" integrated into them somehow. It's edgy and I like it. And it's also like a follow-up to the "It's coming" thing from the beginning. My favorite part has to be the twist at the end, that all the shenanigans were actually a vision, including the mini vision within it. That was pretty dope. It's the first time I actually got by these movies, so I have to give them props for it. But overall, I still think it's the worst one so far, so I give it a 3.6.
Not great or terrible.
And now, the 5th and final movie of the series, at least for a few more months at the time of writing. Final Destination 5. God, I don't want to do this anymore. Released in 2011, this is actually a prequel to the first movie, set right before it in 1999, which means, chronologically, 4 is the last Final Destination movie, although Bloodlines will probably be a sequel to it, because making 2 prequels after 4 movies would be weird. But for now, let's just get this over with before I go insane. We find ourselves at a company breakfast before a business retreat.
Retreat.
And we're introduced to the characters who all work there. Sam, the chef, his girlfriend Molly, who's upset they don't hit the gym enough.
We're not working out.
Peter, Sam's superior, Candace, the intern and also Peter's girlfriend, Olivia, Isaac the fuckboy, Dennis, the department manager and corporate butt kisser, Nathan, who recently got a managerial job that he's getting bullied for by all the workers, and finally, Roy, Nate's biggest bully. Before we get to all the horrible shit that's gonna happen to these people, I will have you know that it's all Olivia's fault because she flat shames Candace.
Sweetie, it's not fat. They're called tits.
Absolutely disgusting, revolting even. This one sentence brings divine wrath upon everyone.
Hand me my chisel, I got a new command missile for y'all.
All tits are good tits. They all get on the company bus and a screen on it plays an infomercial.
180 corporate consulting.
First number alert. Isaac goes to the bathroom to have phone sex with one of his many hoes when a log truck drives by. Don't worry though, it's just here as a sup to the fans and to give Sam the patented heebie-jeebies, which means either he's our seer or he has seen the previous movies. They pass through a bridge that has ongoing construction where one of the workers stops their bus. Sam cuts his finger on something as the bus experiences a natural phenomenon called inertia. Then Dust in the Wind plays on the radio. Let's see. Seer identified. Song played. Heebies, jeebies, clues found. Wind blowing.
Hands shitted.
Yeah, I think we're good to go. The bridge starts cracking from where they're cutting into it, causing a tether to snap, and part of the structure it's holding up right next to the bus to start collapsing. Bus to start collapsing. Candace does the one thing you are not supposed to do in a bridge collapse, which is cling to the railing, and she quickly finds out why she shouldn't. But hey, I mean, it's not the worst fate. There's water below to catch her fall. Then she can just swim back to shore. I sure hope there isn't anything underneath the bridge. Unfortunately, there indeed was something in the way. Peter can't contain his tears that his girlfriend finally opened up and showed him what's inside. But Sam ruins the moment and drags him and Molly away. The gap in the bridge keeps growing and swallows the bus with Isaac still on it, who was too busy gooning to notice anything. The bridge breaks and cuts off the fleeing group, who now have to tippy-toe across an I-beam to the other side. Sam lets Molly across first so he can get a good look at her butt, and then it's Olivia's turn. But she lost her glasses and apparently her brain went with it, as we get a quick shot from her perspective and it's literally just a little blurry. She has no reason to be doing all this. Anyhow, Sam guides her to the beam and helps her on it, but her tits, that she was so happy about earlier, spell her end as their weight tilts the beam and she slides off into the water. She makes it fine though, only a little wet, which is just how I like him. Unfortunately though, a car falls on her and adds the 70% water in her body to the rip. Nate runs to Sam to get across, but unfortunately, as we've established already, death is racist, so poor Nate doesn't even get a shot at crossing. Then that whole part of the bridge starts breaking, and a bunch of shit starts sliding off of it, including including Dennis, who manages to hang on. Loki, I will just jump off the bridge at this point and swim away along the current, because like this whole bitch is gonna collapse anyway, and your odds of surviving that are significantly worse than surviving the dive. Dennis gets the forbidden face mask and goes to wash it off in the water below. I found his agonizing death quite satisfying. Fuck corpos.
Total corpo death. Kill corpos. Behead corpos. Roundhouse kick a corpo into the concrete.
Then it's Peter's turn to cross. Bro jumps and hangs onto the twisted railing, and Sam follows suit. But then a truck comes out saying it actually identifies as a porcupine. He won't admit it, but Sam felt great relief in that moment as the railing couldn't hold them both. But now Sam has more time to climb. Or does he? I love how in previous movies every death was insane and complicated, but here it's just gravity, people falling and stuff falling on them. Everyone died on that bridge except Molly, who lived another 2 weeks before succumbing to the grief and attempting to hang herself in the shower, only to end up slipping and breaking her neck on the toilet. Then Sam snaps back to when he cut his finger and the song plays again, so it dawns on him that he just had a premonition. He freaks out, grabs Molly, runs off. Dennis, being a control freak but too lazy to actually control anything, sends Peter after them.
Crucify filthy corpos. Defecate in a corpos food. Launch corpos into the sun.
Then they all end up getting out to see what's up before the bridge starts crumbling. And since they all have a head start this time, they make it up the bridge in time. I want to point out that the bridge collapsed way faster this time than it did in the Vision. See here, their bus is still on it as it gives out completely. While in the Vision, only the middle section broke and the bus fell through it, and then the bridge kept breaking off bit by bit. Maybe Death realized it's not getting the drama it wants and just rushed the collapse to start working on Plan B. Agent Jimmy questions Sam, doing what Shrek and Wiener were doing in the first movie, but Sam tells him the vibes were just trash. Jimbo then asks Peter if Sam's a terrorist, to which he says no, he's actually a chef and his favorite recipe book is called The Anarchist Cookbook, which is a reference to the real book full of amazing recipes. You should definitely look it up. A guy walks in saying the forensics determined the cause was high winds and structural damage from the construction work.
You're free to go.
It's Sam.
At the memorial, the survivors, now
Branded the Lucky 8,
missed it by 30, talk about the accident and make fun of Jimbo for being bald. Molly seems to be softening up to Sam again, but Bro's a Skibidi Sigma male and has been mogging all her calls. The memorial starts and Dennis gives a soulless corporate ass sermon and they leave.
Stir fry corpos in a wok. Toss corpos into active volcanoes.
On their way out, you will not believe who they run into. Yup, the man, the myth, the legend, the mortician. Ladies and gentlemen.
Death doesn't like to be cheated.
Excuse me? What's that supposed to mean?
You all just be careful now.
God, I missed him so much. This comeback is the best thing they've done in the series so far. Later, Sam gets cooking. Literally, it's his job. After work, he reveals that in fact he is not a Skibidi Sigma male by going to Molly's place, who dumped him. And if that's not bad enough, he even left work early to go to her. Sigma rule number 1, never stop grinding. Sigma rule number 2, especially not for a woman. The lights at her place flicker wherever he goes, like he's got the devil on his shoulder over and over. They sit down to talk and his Skibidi Sigma raised levels crash harder than the stock market would like 9 years later for them. She tells him she left him, aside from his tiny wiener,
Always the dick jokes.
because he's going to an apprenticeship in Paris soon for who knows how long. Okay, like it sounds crass, but I low-key get it. Long distance relationships are ass, and not even like a nice ass. Like Molly's. I'm talking like Bigfoot's ass. So to save them both that terrible fate, and to spare him having to choose between her or his dream job, she makes the hard decision to let him go. Which is clearly hard for her too, but it's tough love. Also, it'd just be really weird between them if he does sacrifice his dream job for her. Like, it's not gonna work. Molly may not be the hero he wants, but she's the hero he needs. Meanwhile, Candace is crashing out before her gymnastics practice, but Peter tells her to break a leg, because this is the last practice before a championship, which is like a really big deal to her. You could say she's willing to die for it. The AC is down in the gym, so they brought out this fan while they fix it. Only problem is, the fan has a chewed wire, which is conveniently located right under the AC. Because the hall is so hot and humid with all the sweaty girls, water condenses on the cold pipe directly above the wire when the AC kicks back on. The AC, much like many people in these movies, has a few screws screws loose, one of which falls directly on the board thingy Candace is on. This is the least realistic scene in the whole movie, in the whole series even. A screw or a nail falling and actually staying within a reasonable area from where it fell? Impossible. You be dropping one of these and it's just gone. And when you find it many months later, it's 12 miles away in your friend's house, in their kitchen cabinet. But anyhow, she miraculously dodges the nail and is done with that part of her routine. On her way to the swing bars, the electrified puddle almost gets her, but she just walks away. The bar she's swinging on also has a screw loose and seems like it's gonna come apart at any second now. And like, Jesus fucking Christ. Why is everything in a perpetual state of disrepair? Do maintenance technicians not exist in this universe? Another girl gets on the board with a screw, but unlike Candace, she gets screwed over and knocks the chalk tray down, which the fan blows all up in Candace's face and she falls. God damn it, Candace. You said break a leg. Just a leg. Sam arrives at the gym to console Peter.
He's just standing there, menacingly!
Then we get a shot of the mortician standing in the distance. Let's go! He's getting more screen time. He doesn't even have to say anything. His face says, I told you so, more than any tongue ever could. Then he just vanishes as soon as Sam looks away because he's built different like that. Next day at work, Sam and Molly reminisce about all the people who failed swimming class at the bridge and how quiet the office has become, while Peter just strut maxes in the background. Then Olivia comes in, rambling about Candace's forbidden flip.
Guess we all should have seen that coming. What? But you see the crazy shit those gymnasts do? I'm surprised it doesn't happen more often.
Which is like, she ain't wrong, but that's not the time or place to be saying that. Meanwhile, Isaac is still being a gross piece of shit and rummaging through the dead colleagues' desks and stealing stuff. Isaac, more like, I suck, but at least he gets a small taste of justice.
Ow. I like where this is going.
Then, Nate comes into the office to get away from Roy, and he even swiped a six-pack from his truck on the way. Peter ups the bounty with a bottle of whiskey, cause he's just gonna drink himself to death if they don't share it. You know what? I'm actually gonna start using that whenever I offer someone something, and they say no just to be polite. Hey, you want some tea? No, shukran, Habiba, I'm good, I just ate lunch. Are you sure? Yeah, wallahi, I'm full, thank you so much. You're not just being polite. No, I promise, I'm really full. I will fucking kill myself right now if you don't ask me for some goddamn tea. What? Okay, shit, just fine, make me some tea with you. Cool. How much sugar? 2.5 spoons. They all get drinking and having a blast. Then Olivia's Uber arrives, so she rushes out. But in her hurry, she knocks her photo off her desk and it cracks a certain way. That's a clue because
there are no accidents.
With Olivia and the alcohol gone, Peter goes on about Candace's chiropractic mishap and he blames himself for not stopping her. So Molly tries to...
Then he waddled away, waddle waddle. Then he waddled away, waddle waddle.
Dennis, being the cock-slobbering rat fuck that he is, calls Detective Jimbo to report Peter's crash out.
Urinate into a Corpus Chew 2 tank. Judo throw Corpus into a wood chipper.
On the other end, Jim's poking around the gym, where one of the officers gives him the most accurate assessment of the situation so far.
This is some freaky shit.
Nice job, Officer Fuckface. You really connected the dots on that one.
Meanwhile, Isaac got off work early to head to a massage parlor that he swiped a brochure for from one of the desks. He borderline harasses the receptionist, who, I will admit, do be fine as fuck, but like, get it together, man. Whoever played this character did an amazing job, because holy fucking shit, I hate him. When I say he's not subtle at all, I mean it.
Erotic massage. Alright, these are solid, just making sure. Tend to be a bit noisy.
You know how people are super embarrassed about buying condoms? This guy is the final boss of them. The receptionist, God bless her soul, stays professional and guides this pig to a massage room and preps it for him. He makes fun of Buddha.
Yo, Buddha, slow down on the rice cakes.
Undresses and lays down. Then is instructed to wait as someone will be with him shortly. And true to her word, someone comes right away. But I think it's not who he imagined. Cho, this wonderful old lady, gives him an impromptu chiropractic session. Also, she understands English but speaks to him in Chinese out of spite. There's this really funny fourth wall break here. He asks her,
Do you come with subtitles?
Then the movie itself turns on subtitles for her after he says that. I like this movie so far. After she's done beating the shit out of him, she whips out the acupuncture set.
How many of these are you gonna put in me?
Then his phone rings, which he puts away and scolds him because there's a sign outside that says to turn off phones. He is then instructed to sleep for 30 minutes while the needles do the thing. Shortly after she leaves, Death busts in the room, says it's dying time, and pours flammable liquid all over the floor. Then one of the thousands of sticks of incense drops some ash on the alcohol-soaked towel used to sterilize the needle, and as we all know, alcohol likes to burn. He notices the fire and calls for help, but his blessing is now his curse, as the room is soundproof like he assessed earlier. He tries to get up, but he has the motor skills of a dying pig, so it doesn't go very well. Lucky for him, the fire is too high to reach the flammable floor. He gets up and instead of immediately rushing out, he takes the time to pull one needle exactly from his body, which is not a priority and also a shit idea because pulling out a sharp object embedded into you expedites bleeding. Never pull out. At any rate, he finally realizes he needs to escape, but the phone rings and its vibration knocks the candle next to it to the alcohol bottle, turning this to a sudden game of the floor is lava. And yes, that is quite realistic. That old phone, those little bastards vibrated like a washing machine. Bro overreacts and falls like a dumbass.
8:21 here on the air. We're experiencing very strong shaking. Wow. I think we need to get under the desk.
Instead of getting the fuck out, he just chills there on the floor for a bit. I guess he banged his head in the fall, or maybe the needles in his head touched his brain, because if he's always been this dumb, he wouldn't have even made it this far in life. But before the fire or asphyxiation or anything else can get him, Buddha gets back at him.
Buddha wins. Fatality.
You know you done fucked up when the icon of pacifism is the one to do you in. Meanwhile, back at the office, Sam suggests to Molly that she come to Paris with him, since the company is shutting down their department anyway, and she can start over there. Then Peter walks in with the news. They rush to the parlor and everyone is scared and sad, all except one person. Sam confronts him this time and they go through the FAQ together. Why is he following them and what is he doing? What's happening to them?
What makes you think I know anything?
What's with the warning he gave them at the cemetery?
It's just that I've seen this before. Lucky few survive the disaster, and then one by one, death comes for them all.
Nate calls it, quote, fucked up karma, which is actually a cool synopsis for the whole series. Then Sam drops the $1 million question. Is there a way to stop it?
You let death have somebody else in your place, and then you take their spot in the realm of the living, then the books are balanced.
They basically have to sacrifice someone else to save themselves.
I don't make the rules. I just clean up after the game is over.
God, I love this guy. This is very special to me. He's getting more screen time and dialogue than he's had in the whole series. Fuck the log truck. The Mortician is peak Final Destination. Also, I know his uniform here says coroner, but Mortician sounds way more metal, so I'll keep using it. The sacrifice someone to save yourself gig is new, or I guess old, since chronologically this is the first movie. Point is, it wasn't brought up in the other movies, which begs the question, why? Does death change the rules every time and the Mortician is just a messenger? Is the Mortician one with death? Realistically, the answer is because this movie was an accident child that came after the planned ones ended, so nothing in it was accounted for in any of the previous movies. I do have a problem with the balance concept. Remember in the second movie how a teacher got stabbed instead of Eugene after he got transferred to a different school? According to this sacrifice theory, that should have spared Eugene since death got a life, but clearly it didn't since Bro was included in the pile-up design along with all the other loose ends and ended up dying. See, that's the problem with making up rules as you go. You are bound to cause inconsistencies, especially when you introduce new rules in a prequel. But anyway, they each react differently to the Mortician's statement. Molly's upset, Peter takes it because he's desperate for an explanation, Nate, as a fellow man of color, is immune to the Mortician's swag and does not believe a word he said, and Sam remembers that death is not after all of them, as even in his premonition, Molly made it out. She was never meant to die. Peter gets mad at him for saving Molly, his girlfriend, in the vision that didn't actually happen, instead of Candace.
Hey dude, did you hear about Candace?
Peter's own girlfriend, who got her own ass killed by being a retard, and no one could do anything to help her. But also like, dog, she's your girl. You failed to protect her. How the fuck is that Sam's fault?
Candace dick fit in your mouth, son?
Peter's losing the plot. The grief is getting to him and something tells me he's gonna... He even low-key looks like the guy in that music video. Like, holy shit, what are the odds? The other three then remember that Olivia exists, not for long, and go to warn her. She's getting ready for a LASIK operation because she wants the bimbo look, which can't include glasses. L take, by the way. Girls with glasses are the cutest, especially the round ones. The glasses. Not the girls. Well, I mean the girls too, but anyway, she sits in this Dead Space device and is being a big baby, so the doctor gives her one of the teddies they keep for kids. But I totally get it. I hate anything to do with the eyes. Zero judgment for being scared. I'm only judging her for getting a LASIK in the first place. Just put on glasses, bro. You already have them. Keep them on. Bro straps her head in, and the most uncomfortable scene in the whole series takes place as he shoves this Tom and Jerry ass device under her eyelids to keep them open, which she understandably hates. So much that she squeezes an eye out of her teddy. Good thing they're at an eye clinic. They can just pop that right back in once they're done with her. The doctor notices that the assistant messed something up and goes to spank her, leaving Olivia alone, strapped in this hellish contraption. Look, Final Destination or not, if a medical professional leaves me restrained like this, I'm suing their asses, and then I'm suing the rest of their bodies, and I'm winning both cases. Now take a look at this cup for me, will you? If you're an optimist, you'll say it's half full, but if you're a pessimist, you'll say it's half empty. And if you're deaf, you'll knock it over the outlet and cause the device Olivia's strapped to start ramping up the laser intensity way above safe limits. We've seen this one before at the dentist's office. It seems death has a standard protocol for clinics, but I do have to ask, if this device is not to be set above 5 megawatts, like it says here, then why the fuck can it even go above 5 megawatts? Same thing with the tanning beds in the third movie, but that one had water directly in its circuitry, so maybe it broke a safety or something, and the gauge was just showing what it's sensing. And also it's not as sensitive as the eyes, so like whatever. But this here, this is just stupid. For a device that could explode a patient's head, I feel like it should be physically incapable of going past the safe limit under any circumstances. Regardless, the device keeps ramping up, and the beeping scares Olivia, so she tries to blindly reach for the Looney Tunes remote, but ends up knocking it over and hitting the activation button. She gets her shit together pretty quick though, especially for a Final Destination character, and unscrews her head vice and frees herself. Meanwhile in the lobby, Molly and Sam rush in warning the doctor about Olivia, whose screams become audible only now, for some reason. Wait, where the fuck is Nathan? He was with them last we saw him before they headed to find Olivia. Everyone rushes in and are greeted by this horror show, and in typical Final Destination fashion, they all just watch until things get even worse, as she slips on the teddy eye and falls through the glass and dies. I'm pretty sure everyone imagines this scenario when they find themselves in a glass building. Also, don't worry, you didn't think they'd just kill her and be done with it like that, did you? There's a gore quota that has to be met, you know? As she falls on a car below, her cooked eyeball pops out and falls on the road. Good thing they're at an eye clinic, they can just pop that right back in.
Guess what, bitch? It gets worse.
If I had to see it, so do you.
I don't make the rules.
Molly and Sam wait in the lobby while the police get policing. She's pretty shook and asks him to spend the night with her. Not like that. Or maybe, I don't know. Detective Jimbo shows up, as usual, and apparently the device did have a shit ton of safeties who all had to fail for it to become a death ray like it did. Still stupid that they put safeties for it instead of making it straight up physically impossible, but sure, I guess. 1 in a billion is acceptable. But it would suck if you are that one. Jimbo finds it mad sus that Sam is always there for these freaky accidents, but he doesn't accuse them this time, and instead asks them what they know, and since he asked so nicely, they give him the death theory, which clearly he wasn't ready for. The next day, Molly wakes up to find Sam had been up all night gooning in her living room, and in the sweeping clarity that followed, he figured out the order. Nate is next. He's at work handling time cards, then he gets to Roy's and sees it has a bunch of hearts and a love letter on it. Turns out Roy was gay for him all along, and the bullying was his way of getting his attention. Nate, being the bi king that he is, walks over to the factory floor and calls Roy up to the catwalk. He comes up and gets down on one knee. Nate says yes, and they make out passionately, but then a crane interrupts them by falling towards Nate. Roy sacrifices himself to save the love of his life by shoving him out of the way and taking the hook instead. Rest in power, King. March with pride on your way. Down to hell. Yeah, sorry. I support the gays, but they still go to hell.
I don't make the rules.
You will forever be remembered as the most devout gay lover to ever walk this earth. With that sacrifice, Nathan should be in the clear now. Meanwhile, Peter reveals to Dennis that Olivia and Isaac ate it, and if they don't do something about it, they're next. Dennis doesn't buy it, obviously, and diagnoses Peter with survival guilt.
Twist Corpo's heads off. Report Corpos to the Wizards Council. Karate chop Corpos in half.
It frustrates me that Peter turned against his best friends without a second thought, but would take the time to go warn his gaping asshole of a boss. Like, damn it, Peter. Lapdog much? Bro riding dick so hard it will get pregnant. Bro's death will be of spontaneous combustion and will be broadcasted on
Hello, your computer has virus.
BBC News.
And what the fuck is you talking about? What the fuck was that?
Dennis, who is a known rat son of a bitch, immediately goes to suck Detective Jimmy's tits, also known as Jim Boobs, saying Peter just threatened him.
Curb stomp pregnant corpos. Trap corpos in the desert. Crush corpos in the trash compactor.
Yeah, get fucked, Peter, you dumb piece of shit. Never trust corporate. HR is not your friend. Your only ally is your work bestie. That is like work 101.
Liquefy corpos in a vat of acid. Stomp corpos' skulls with steel-toed boots.
Peter and the couple both catch up to Nathan at the factory floor where Roy just slayed. Molly and Sam thought it was Nate who got skewered as it's his turn, while Peter believes that Nate killed Roy and is now free to live for however long Roy would have lived. And he's so confident that he convinces Nate himself that he killed Roy.
And I make the motherfucker wonder if you did.
Sam tells them about the order, but before he can get to who's next, Dennis bursts in like,
Oi, 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 you wanker, what's all this?
Lobotomize corpos.
Seems Death has indeed accepted Nate's offering and moved on to the next target. That sure threw a wrench in his plans. Fuck you, Dennis.
Grind corpo fetuses in the garbage disposal.
I hope you rot in hell and Satan makes you his sex slave, condemned to gargle mayonnaise for all of eternity. Back home, Molly's molding over Sam going to work, worried he's putting himself at risk, but he argues that if Death wants him, it'll get him regardless. And he also says that they can't live their lives in fear, blah blah blah, and as long as they're together, they're fine. The power of love may have saved her, but I'm afraid it won't save him, because Death is a simp. Only ladies get away. But then he offers her to swing by after his shift so he can make her a free dessert, and she's immediately on board, and they kiss.
Wake up! Wake up! Wake up!
Whoever said the way to the heart is through the stomach was cooking. The restaurant Sam works at is called Lemiro 81. Which if you mirror it, it is 180 Prim L, the curse number. Sam gets to work but realizes putting his money where his mouth was might be a little harder than anticipated. Bro should have stayed home, I'm calling it now. Also, Jimbo is waiting outside in his car. That's a surprise tool that'll help us later. Sam manages to make it through his shift against all odds, then whips Molly the mad dessert he promised her, which they split over candlelight. Sam tells her that he took the offer and they kiss some more and it's oh so romantic. But someone watches from outside and does not share their joy. Seeing them happy, Jimbo relives his divorce and how his wife took the kids. Seeing these two kiss and be happy stirred something so dark deep within him. Oh wait. And that's actually Peter.
Hello, Peter.
My bad, yeah, it's kinda dark outside. He knocks on the window and Sam invites him to sit down with them despite how ominous and weird he's being. You know, crazy how Sam can sense death itself but can't tell a maniac who has been openly envious and even threatened Molly is up to no good. He says that after careful consideration, he's actually cool with taking someone's life to save his, but he can't get himself to do it because these people don't deserve to die. But do you know who does, according to him?
Molly!
Bro pulls a gun on her, but Sam flips the table on him and they bolt. Peter, my dude, I get that you're upset, but you're so incredibly stupid. If you've made up your mind already, why announce it to them before taking the shot? What's with all the drama? Just blindside them with it. Hell, why even knock on the window and ask to be let in? What are you, a vampire? Restaurant fronts aren't bulletproof, you know. You could have easily shot her from outside without them realizing you were ever there at all. Honestly, bro deserves to die more than anyone else. He's been a terrible friend, a corporate bootlicker,
mandatory abortions for corpos,
and worst of all, a giant dumbass.
You are made of stupid.
Our secret tool reports shots fired and calls for backup before going into the restaurant ready for action. Molly hides in the kitchen while Sam distracts Peter, who figures that he is stalling, but since he's on the list too and killing him won't do shit if he's even allowed to die before his turn comes, aka after Peter, he just smacks him unconscious. Molly is clearly not taking this game of hide and seek seriously, as she's just crouched behind a rack with glasses and cups on. Transparent glasses and cups. And she doesn't take her high heels off, which are A, loud as fuck, and B, impractical as fuck. But Peter is even dumber than her, as he doesn't see or hear her, so I guess it's fine. He turns all the ovens on and fryers for some reason, before continuing the hunt for Molly. Seems bro forgot it's still his turn to die, or he just doesn't give a shit anymore because he's really pushing his luck with Death here. I know Death likes action and probably won't interfere with their death match until someone wins, but he doesn't know that. Anyway, Molly draws a knife and prepares to practice for life in Paris, but then her target turns the corner and it's actually Jimbo. And like a complete fucking buffoon, buffoon, he just stands there, out in the open, and asks her what's happening. Like, Habibi, you heard a gunshot, and you know there's a psycho running around with a gun. And as we've already established, she is also dumb, so she just comes out of her cover to tell him, it's Peter. Like, yeah, I think he knows already. I'd instead be telling him to keep it down and get the hell down. Stupidity can only go unpunished so long, however. It's Peter, he has a gun.
You killed him.
I'm aware. The lights flicker, which Peter interprets as death heading next on the playlist. So, no need to pop Molly anymore. But then he decides to pop her anyway, cause why not? And also cause he's a witness now. So, he started blasting. But Sam comes to the rescue and saves Molly's ass yet again. Look, man. She got a great ass! But is it really worth that much trouble? She runs to get help while Sam and Peter show what a real Hell's Kitchen looks like. Take notes, Chef Ramsay. They slug it out man to man. No guns, as Sam had already knocked out Peter's hand. How would you like your gun, sir? I do have to say that in a place full of heavy, sharp, hot, and explosive objects, as well as a bunch of open flames, these two are doing an incredibly shit job at killing each other. Eventually, Sam loses, but Peter wastes enough time being cool instead of just stabbing him for Molly to come back and distract him. But she also gets subdued immediately and put in a classic damsel in distress scenario. And now Sam has to save her ass yet again. The length men will go to for a woman, it's insane. And the worst part is I get it and would totally do the same. Peter clearly has learned nothing from the events of this night and still wastes time being cool before Sam turns him to shish kebab.
Get the fuck out of here.
Throw that bad boy in the oven. It's even preheated already. They kiss and the lights flicker, so they figure that by killing Peter, Sam stole Jimbo's life that he took. Well done, please. Death still killed them both with a sick ricochet double kill because kill stealing is scummy. Nah, it misses. They really are free. And 2 weeks later, they are headed to Paris. They get on the plane and get settled in when a commotion breaks out further down the aisle. Some kid is freaking out and gets escorted off the plane with a few other kids just before takeoff. Yup, it's exactly what you think it is. This is Flight 180, and we all know how that goes. But I do want to point out some inconsistencies. This time, the wing catches fire and burns for quite a while as the plane falls apart before it finally explodes. Whereas in the first movie, when we see it from Alex's point of view, after he got off, it seems to abruptly explode in the sky. And while it is really far, I think a fiery trail would be impossible to miss against the backdrop of the night sky. I believe that is because the wings don't catch fire in the first movie. Aside from the visual evidence I just mentioned, based on the theory Alex sees in the news that he uses to figure out the death order, it was some fuel pump leak that fucked up the fuselage and an electric spark set off the explosion on the plane's body itself. The wings had nothing to do with it. Second, in the first movie, the oxygen masks deploy before the hull breach, not after it. And finally, the hull breach is caused by an electrical failure inside the cabin, evident by a bunch of sparks and a small bang before the hull gives out. In this movie though, the first damage to the hull is caused by shrapnel from the jet engine. On a final note, while rewatching the first scene for this investigation, I noticed there is almost no screams in the background to the point it's uncanny. Like, guys, the plane's crashing. No time like the present to scream your lungs out.
Let it out!
Release all those years of pent-up rage so that you can pass on with a clear mind. Still, it's really cool how they tied the two movies together. All the side-by-side I just pointed out are just my autism showing. Death must have been banging its head against the wall so fucking hard when Alex got off the plane it was using to tie off loose ends, creating 7 more loose ends for it to tie off. So many rules, so many songs, so many designs, bros working overtime to keep up and still can. Death Inc. must have a bomb-ass accounting department. We definitely do, and we are looking to expand and grow even more. If you are qualified and interested, call or text us on 180-666-69-420 free of charge for further information and to apply. Oh, speaking of death's rule, remember the one about giving someone your death and taking their remaining days? While Nate pays respects to his gay hero who saved his life, he learns from a colleague that while the CIA was harvesting Roy's body for organs, they found out he actually wasn't gay. He just had a severe case of gay fever that had ravaged his entire body from the inside out and was gonna kill him any minute now. Any minute now. As a final treat, the movie shows us a sort of highlight reel of the whole series, which really shows they were actually done for real after this one. And Bloodlines is just part of the whole digging up old franchises because creating new ideas is too risky trend. But hey, if it doesn't suck ass, I'll fucking watch it. These movies are goofy as hell anyway and have infinite potential. Before we close, I want to show you the end of the highlight reel.
You got it! You all just be careful now.
They may have done him dirty and cut him out for 2 whole movies. They may have given him very little screen time in the ones he did show up in. But in the end, the very last thing we see in the series is his beautiful stride. And the last thing we hear is him wishing us well in his calm, ominous voice. I guess you could say that the Mortician was our final destination. Anyway, W movie. I'd give this one an 8 out of 10. My only serious gripe with it is the fact that it wasn't planned from the start. I mean, whenever anyone talks about death stuff in these movies, it's always Flight 180.
You guys all heard about Flight 180, right?
On takeoff, Flight 180 blew up.
This occurred 1 year to the day of the Flight 180.
The Flight 180 thing. Flight 180 died in accidents in the order they would have died if they'd have stayed on the plane.
So you think that this was the precedent? The first time death rolled up its sleeves and came down in person. But nope, apparently there was this massive catastrophic event that happened not long before Flight 180 that most definitely took way longer to clean up and had a much higher death toll, but not only didn't become the precedent, nobody ever mentions it, ever? Seriously? The internet documented that a brick fell on Alex's head months after all was said and done, and there was not a single record of a similar situation centered around a huge bridge collapsing? It's just such a huge tear in the consistency of this universe, like it really annoys me. Another side effect of being a last-minute prequel, as I mentioned before, is that it introduced rules that never actually existed in the movies that took place after it, like the whole sacrifice mechanic. And that, ladies and gentlemen, probably mostly gentlemen, was the Final Destination series so far. And if you've made it this far in the video, I just want you to know that you are amazing and I love you.
I'm not saying no homo.
As for the movies, I actually liked them. Some more than others. The fourth was especially frustrating, but I think they all have their merits and are worth watching. Just maybe not back to back like I did. I've definitely lost brain cells over the past few weeks. Now that I've seen them all, thought about them critically, and made fun of them, I can finally answer the question I set out to answer. Did we really need that many Final Destination movies? Honestly, I would only do away with the fourth, mainly because the acting and writing suck throughout most of it. Yeah, it does get slightly better pretty far into the movie, or maybe I had just gotten used to it, but that didn't matter because I had stopped caring about it by that point. And while the twist was sick as hell, it doesn't unsuck the entire rest of the movie. It just gave me the push I needed to get through the rest of it without blowing my brains out. I'd maybe just redo it with better writing and more experienced casting, or just rehearse more, I don't know.
Hold it right there.
Hi. Sorry to interrupt me again, but I found some really cool stuff last minute and I wanna tell you about it. I went to the fourth movie's IMDb page to see if people hated it too, which they did by the way, it has the lowest rating of the whole series. But anyway, I checked the trivia section and holy fuck are these movies jam-packed with small details and in-universe references. Like the fact that the group was seated in the section 180 of the spectator area, which I totally missed, and in the cafe after the crash, the TV shows news about an amusement park, which presumably is referring to the third movie's events. It's also where I learned that the incident is actually based on a real crash, as I said earlier. They also have an in-universe brand of beer. Mr. Dipshit drinks it. A truck carrying its brand shows up in the second movie, and in the third movie, a similar truck boxes Wendy and Kevin in at the drive-thru before Frankie gets his haircut. Do you have any idea how cool this is? I freaking love world-building stuff like this. There are way more cool details and fun facts on the trivia pages of all these movies, by the way. If you're into this stuff, you should definitely go check them out after this. I know I had a blast geeking out about them, and it made me appreciate this series so much more, as I am starting out with writing, and I know how hard it is to pull this off clean. Now, back to me. The rest of the series is pretty solid though, except for the fucking wire scene in the first movie. Yes, I'm still pissed off about it. But regardless, if you like the premise, I think having more of them to watch is good. As for the horror aspect, it just doesn't really do it for me. In my opinion, for a horror movie to go from just fun to watch to actually scary, it needs to be the slightest bit plausible. Something like Quarantine. That shit's one of the scariest movies I've ever seen because simply it's way too plausible. And the way it's shot also really lends to the immersion and horror. I'm not gonna spoil it, but I can't recommend it enough. But that is just my worldview. Final Destination, from the perspective of the characters in it, is absolutely horrifying. Like usually there is a monster, a person, or a location that you can avoid, fight, or run from. But here, the monster, aka death, is omnipresent and can leverage the very nature of things to kill you. And the certainty that you will die a horrible death, but the uncertainty of when, where, and how has to be one of the scariest fates imaginable. So, in conclusion, I think the movies are fine. I love the fact they've built a whole universe around them, and at the end of the day, maybe the real Final Destination was the friends we made along the way. As a final note, I think it's admirable that they managed to make 5 action/horror movies without a single helicopter crashing. This video has taken me a shit ton of time and effort to write and shoot, and I still have to edit all of this together. I've been shooting for almost all day at this point. So I really hope you made it this far, and you've been having fun. But do let me know what you thought of it in the comments, and if you want more videos like this. And also let me know which movies you liked and hated the most. And if I've managed to entertain you so far, please consider supporting the channel. There's a link in the description where you can buy me a coffee, which is a cute way to give a tip. And there's also super thanks here on YouTube. It means a lot to me and it makes all this work worth it. Like the video, subscribe for more shenanigans, leave a comment telling me your thoughts, not necessarily about the movies or video, just any thoughts you have in general that you want to share. Write the first thing that comes to your mind. Let's see what the algorithm makes of it all. And if you have any video suggestions, absolutely drop those as well. And finally, join the Discord if you want to be friends, or more. I'll be the friend, you bring the benefits. That sounded a lot better in my head. I think I'm experiencing oxygen deficiency. I'm just gonna go lie down and breathe now, because I'm gonna arrive if I don't take this shit off immediately. Arrive where? To my final destination. And I'll see you next time, hopefully. Bye now. Have a good one.